Hello, and welcome to the Weekly Scroll podcast brought to you by the Adventure Archive. My name is Ryan, and with me today we have a very wonderful special guest, Kirby of Disaster Tourism. How are you doing this morning, Kirby?
I'm doing pretty great. How are you?
I'm tired as always. So why don't you tell the people who might not know who Kirby of Disaster Tourism is and a little bit about yourself?
Damn, I'm really bad at this part. I'm Kirby. Me and my partner Kristen run Disaster Tourism. I do the writing and design work, I guess, and Kristen does all the art and layout. We have a kid named Luna. She's really sweet and also a nightmare. I don't know what else to say, really. I mean, that's kind of all I got.
Hey, that's enough. I mean, so because you've only been doing this it was very recently your 1 year of doing games, right?
Yeah. So I started, 1 year ago in October was my first published book with Exalted Funeral. And we started doing like digital stuff a little bit before that, but that was really when I kind of decided like this is something I want to pursue, like not just do as for fun, this is something I actually want to pursue. Before that, I had been working on this really big project. It was the first thing I ever did, basically after discovering that other role-playing games existed and starting to read them and collect them. And I was like, okay, I'm going to write my own thing, but I had no idea what the fuck I was doing. And so I spent about eight or 9 months doing that. And then eventually I was like, this is a lot of work. Let me just do something smaller. And then I jumped in, I did a business card RPG. And then I did another one right after that. Small Sword and Little Ranger. These two little, like, basically play pretend games where you just throw a card in the living room and roll some dice, And then after that, I kind of started to work on games. I did Noir, which was like the solo detective, like 1920s Dick Tracy kind of thing. And then after that, I did Paranormal, and that was the game that got published with EF. And then since then, I've been like, okay, I think I'm figuring this out. I kind of got a vibe. So yeah, it's been a great year though. I mean, like we've put out a lot of material, I think.
Yeah. And like good stuff, you know what I mean? Like it's not just stuff,
Yeah.
Like each one feels good and distinct and purpose, like has purpose to each one. So it's really good. Real quick, and I'm sorry to interrupt you because I've made myself a post-it note to not forget to do this, and then of course forgot right at the beginning. So we're doing a giveaway today.
Yes.
You have a new book that is out now, and it is that right there. This House is Haunted.
Yep.
So we're going to be giving away, I think we said 3 soft cover This House is Haunted today. So let me make sure that I did this all right. If I hit start, boom. Chat, a giveaway for soft cover This House is Haunted has started for viewers. Use ! giveaway to enter the giveaway. And that should cycle every couple of minutes, and I'll just keep making sure it does. So all you have to do, you don't have to be here at the end. I'll hit you up at some point, either through Discord if you're in our Discord, or through Twitch if you don't have anything else, and get your address and whatever and get that sent out to you. So ! giveaway in the chat, and we'll do that. So what were you saying when I interrupted you for our wonderful giveaway?
I don't even remember, man. Yeah, got a lot. Oh yeah, we put out a lot of material this past year. So and something that I'm excited about is the development of my own skills that I have kind of built over the past year. So Ryan's got some of the books there. Our resident collector of the Weekly Scroll here. Yeah. I know the feeling. Trust me, I know the feeling. I have a lot of hardcovers over here. But it's been a really good year because we not only did we put out a lot of stuff, but I've also throughout that process have learned a lot about like games writing, and it's not really that easy. I think there is some simplicity to it, as far as like the concepts of how you can make a game function, but making them playable is like a different task, I think, than just making them readable and to make sense. You know what I mean? And that's something that's one of the reasons why I put out our newest Halloween project, was the triple feature, which just came out. It's digital only. But it's all three of the games that we released last year on Halloween with Exalted Funeral. I basically rewrote them. I'm proud and confident in the books that I released last year, but over this past year, I've developed a lot more skill and eye for technical writing and stuff like that. And I really wanted to kind of expand on that a little bit and go back to the things that I really liked and be like, okay, let me like release a second edition of this to make it like a little more clear, make it more fun, more playable, more like a little bit more explanation for the people at the table, so there's not too much confusion when people sit down and like look at a book that has 4 pages and they're like, what the fuck am I doing with this, you know? Okay. So, which I totally get. I've done that.
Yeah, it's hard though, you know, when you start to write stuff, because there's that, like, I get it, I wrote it obviously, so I get it, you know. Yeah. And how do people not get it? It makes sense in my mind, and then someone looks at it and just goes, I have no fucking clue what this says here. Like, what do you mean by this, you know? Yeah,
that's something that's one of those things I'm saying, like with the things that I've developed over the year, and kind of that what appears to be ease of how it looks easy to write a game, right? But it's not, because you have to figure out how to write so that people who have no concept or context for what you're saying can easily jump right into it. And that's something that is a skill that you have to develop. It's not, you know, it's not something that's very easy.
So that's a question. I mean, well, that's I guess a topic to an extent. So you try to write for someone who's never played a game before, like that they could have an understanding of anything that you put out there, as opposed to you know, someone that's obviously in like a niche hobby that's played, you know, that has a bookshelf of games. Like, that's something you're striving for more in your writing now than you did a year ago, to make it where anyone could just pick it up and play it?
I would say it's a little bit of both. So I think that the skills that I've been trying to develop have been to develop more clarity in my writing, so that there's no confusion when someone reads. So somebody that doesn't have a lot of exposure to TTRPGs can pick up, you know, Sweet Tooth, which is the new version of Bucket Bash, and go, okay, yeah, this is like a LARP, or like I can just play this at the table with my friends, like, and I understand how this works, as opposed to Bucket Bash, which I think is still great, and I didn't really change too much of it. That was one of the ones that I barely actually edited. I just added some clarification to, but that one is kind of, I think that knowing how a role-playing game functions makes understanding those books a little bit easier. So yeah, I think that developing that skill is something that I've been working on. But I've also been kind of moving away from games in general and trying to migrate more into adventures writing. So that's also a totally different thing as well. But yeah, I think that's, I don't know. Yeah, I guess a little bit.
Gotcha. No, I mean, that makes sense. And that was another question I was going to ask eventually, was you put out a lot of games, you know, and a lot of people start with supplements or hacks or things like that. But what, I guess, what was the original, when you were first putting stuff out, I guess, what's the shift from, okay, I'm putting out these games, you know, like Wyrd, into adventure writing is what you're talking about now, or like supplements, kind of like This House is Haunted? Like, what, I guess, what is the impetus to transition over a little bit more?
Well, there's a million systems. That's one, right? So there, you know, and no shade to games designers, because I am one, at all. I think writing systems is not easy. It's, you know, and it's fun. It is very fun to try and take a concept, like in Bucket Bash and Sweet Tooth, we literally, Jarrett from Exalted Funeral was like, I need a third game for Halloween. And I was like, all right. Me and Kristen were like, can we use a bucket of candy as a game mechanic? And that was like the whole thing. We started with that, and I wrote a game from, and it works. And I was like, and that's something that I think is really fun, is figuring out those like how do you take something mechanical and turn it into something that's fun, right? But there's so many systems. And this year, like, I don't know, a few months ago, I was working on a project that I think I may have abandoned. I don't even remember which one it was, but I probably abandoned it because I have so many projects. But I was working on this project and it was going to be a game, and then at some point I was like, this could just not be a game. This could be for Troika, right? Like I don't need this to be a game. And then I started thinking about that more, and I was like, a lot of things that I want to write could just be adventures or settings for things they don't like. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of people do with their new systems is that they work so hard on developing a system of rules and mechanics that fit to a setting and a style of play that they want, instead of looking for, and I'm not saying that they have to do this obviously, but instead of looking for, hey, maybe there's this, maybe there's a game out there that already functions this way. Why don't I just write a setting and adventure? Because in my opinion, and this is how I kind of am now, that actually unlocks a lot more potential for you in your creative writing and your exploration of the topic. Because when you're writing a system, you have to kind of keep things a lot more concise and like dialed in so that the players and the game master, if there's going to be a referee, know that or have like this, like the guidelines for your game that you're writing, whether that's how you decide to play or not. Some people don't care for guidelines and whatever. But for me, it's like, if you look at, if you wanted to write something that was much more like, you had this grand idea for some heavy fantasy thing, why spend all this time trying to develop some kind of mechanical system for it, and just go balls deep in the lore, right? And come up with some really cool setting and adventure, and then just tack on the stat blocks for a game you like, and it makes, to me, that makes it a lot more easy for the development aspect of it, but it also is just more fun because you get to just really be more, I think you get to explore a lot more of your creative side, Right. So that's kind of where I've drifted in terms of where I'm at, from the past few months to here.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, even with like This House is Haunted, it's pretty just like OSR, what I mean? Yeah. Like, here's some hit dice, here's some damage dice, and the rest of it's all just flavor, like tons of great flavor, roll tables, stuff like that. And that does open it up for, I mean, especially when you're selling things, right? Like, if you make a new system, anyone that's looking for a cool new system, cool, right? But not everyone is. We know for the billion people that won't play something else besides fucking 5e, a lot of people find their comfort game and they'll play their comfort game. So if their comfort game is Troika or Merkborg or whatever it is, if you put out a supplement that can be either, then you can hit both, So, I mean, it definitely can open up a ton more, because I know anytime I find a new game, I love, like, I love that Durf has a couple of adventures, because if I want to play Durf, it's great to have an adventure that goes with it. And anytime people put out things for Troika, or when someone puts anything out for Bastards or something like that, it's great to be like, I really like Bastards, here's an adventure for it. So I think I hit the wall on the end of that tangent train. But I guess prior to that, then earlier when you were actually making, not when, you still are, with that in mind, what was the impetus for like Wyrd?
So that was more of a I would say some kind of creative challenge. Wyrd was like a challenge for me. It started as I had just come out of a RuneQuest campaign. I had been playing in that for a few months, and I was playing another campaign for a while, and then I wouldn't say quit. I left all of my campaigns because I needed to just take a break from playing in like long-term things for a while. And I was really inspired by RuneQuest, even though RuneQuest is ridiculously heavy-handed. I don't know if you've ever read or played RuneQuest, but it is really, really crunchy. Okay. Rolling for damage, rolling for where you hit, similar to Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, where you roll for where you hit. Your armor has hit points. Each piece of armor has hit points. and you can, it's like lots of stuff like that. And so I had come out of RuneQuest and I was like, I really like the way that RuneQuest works, but RuneQuest is so crunchy that it's almost inaccessible for even someone like me who enjoys crunchy games to some extent. So how do I write something that has that feeling that is like the minimal possible rules I can possibly come up with? And that's where Wyrd came out. I wrote 4 pages of rules, and I have another game coming out that is when we can talk about this later when we talk about Wyrd a little more, but I have another game coming out in the next couple of months that is kind of an expansion on this. That's like a bigger, I guess, my first Wyrd hack, right? That is the kind of pinnacle of my goal of creating the like crunchiest possible rule set with like the fewest amount of rules, the crunchiest possible feeling for the fewest amount of rules. So that was kind of where this came from. So my whole goal was like armor should affect you. It shouldn't just negate damage, right? You should right. That. So there was just this like modifier that I added in Wyrd that was basically it. But that was the goal for Wyrd. It was to create the minimal possible rules for the crunchiest possible feeling I could,
Gotcha. And for those that haven't seen Wyrd, like it says ultralight for a reason. Like it's literally like not a whole lot of words across what amounts to about 3 pages in a character sheet.
Yeah.
Like that's it. That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
So, and then there's Copper State Games, I believe, has put out what is Gabe has put out, basically took this and was like, let me add in all of this other stuff to it. Yeah. What did you think about that when you were like, this was my goal, and then someone's tacking on all this other stuff? Like, what was your
Yeah. Gabe's a really good friend of mine, and he actually asked me, he was like, hey, is it okay if I do this? And I was like, fuck yeah, dude, are you kidding me? Like, this is like, the system that I wrote for this is so small that it was basically designed to be just piled on, right? Like that's one of the things I like about it, is that it's so simple that you can kind of do whatever you want with it. You can take anything you want and just add it to it, because there's almost no rules, but there's enough rules to keep it together, right? That's about all there is,
right? Like it's almost more of a framework than anything.
Well, that's exactly what it is. So that's something I don't know when you want to talk about that, but we can talk about that at some point today.
Right now it's fine. We're talking about it, so let's go.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all tangents. That's what we do.
So I am actually next month, hopefully, I'm going to be releasing the Wyrd framework, which is the next version of this. It's not really any different. It's just a bit more. I added like 1 or 2 sentences of clarification on how to use it. And then I think I edited like one thing. And I'm releasing that with my next game, which is tentatively called Guild Game, which is you have read, I believe, an early version of it.
Yeah. You sent me an early version of it a while ago. Yeah.
But basically, I'm going to be launching that on my website as a whole thing. It's going to be a framework for people to take and just do whatever the fuck they want with it. And Gabe released the Profane Wyrd, which is just fucking awesome, like black metal, dark fantasy shit, all written for Wyrd. And my buddy Tom has 2 big books he's working on right now, and they're going to release at some point in the next few months, or hopefully, we'll see. I actually don't know if he started working on them yet, so I shouldn't say that, but but yeah, that's kind of my like plan for Wyrd right now. And I've got Wired, just like the cyberpunk version. Yeah, there you go. And another buddy of mine has like 7 or 8 versions of the game that he's working on, his own little hacks. He's got like Whacked, which is like the Mafia one, which I know you were on.
That's my favorite one. Yeah.
So it's cool. I'm excited about like the possibilities of it. And I think I'm not trying to make more money off it. I want to re-release it as a framework, so it's clear that it is what that is, right? You can play this game as is. Mm-hmm. And people like it. Rusty did a really cool AP of Wired with an adventure. I think he got out of Cyborg, and I thought that was pretty cool. Like you can totally play this game as is, but it's definitely more of a framework to build on top of than it is to just play by itself. But yeah,
Those are such great games though. Like I really enjoy what a lot of people in the scene are doing lately, where like they'll drop a game and like an SRD or kind of like a framework with it, and then just see like what people have gone and run with it. I mean, things like Breathless and Nova, well, like the whole Lumen system and things like that, where there's these systems. And one of the things that you said, instead of people making their own entire games, being able to be like, okay, I really like, Wyrd, and instead of me coming up with a whole new game, let me take this framework and this thing that's not weird at all, as in the like medieval sword and sorcery fantasy thing. You can do Mafia, you can do whatever you want. Like Lumen has things that are like, dark, like Hedge and stuff like that are not space fantasy Destiny stuff. It's completely different, but it's all the same framework, which is fantastic. So I'm really excited as a framework to see what people tack onto it, and like Whacked especially. Like I'm really excited. I just like the creativity, because I was like, Wyrd, I get it. Wyrd, I was like, okay, this is cool that it's 4 letters and starts with a W. But then when it was Whacked, I don't know why, I cracked up for like 5 minutes when he told me that.
When he told me that, I was like, oh my God. Like I didn't expect, and I showed you this before the stream, but another friend of mine did Hired, which is like a mercenary hack of this. They did this for the Ultralight Jam that I hosted back in, I think, June or something, which is really great. But I was cracking up because I think like a good half of the people that were doing it were like, all right, what 4 letters can I come up with to like right. And I was like, that's great. All right, I love that, but like it's not a requirement. But like seriously,
is there an E in there? Tell me there's not an E in Hired.
No, there is.
It's HIRD, right?
HI with a tack mark over it, and then RD. Yeah.
Yes, only 4 letters. That is an unofficial requirement. If the first time I see a 5-letter hack, we're throwing down.
Yeah.
So are you gonna do a Wyrd jam?
I am, yes. So that's a plan of mine. I'm gonna, when I release the framework and I release the new game that I'm putting out, I'm going to host a jam probably for adventures and or hacks of the system. And we'll see what happens. I'm gonna be publishing some of the stuff that comes out on my website. So I don't know, I'm going to be doing I'm going to be printing or distributing the Profane Wyrd from Copper State Games. I'm going to be distributing his book because I'm going to create a section on my website specifically just for Wyrd stuff. So I'm going to end up distributing some things, and we'll see. I mean, if there's something that I really, really, really like that comes out in the jam, and I'm like, I want to actually spend my own money to print this, I will reach out to the person who wrote it and be like, yo, can we do like a partnership here and sell this on my website, because we'll see, it'll be fun. But for the most part, I love running jams. Like jams are, even when I don't actually participate in them and just run and manage them, I love doing it because I love seeing people's creativity, like just come out in like restricted sequences or systems or whatever. Because when I did the Ultralight Jam, the rule was, all the rules have to fit on 4 pages. You can't, and it has to be A5. So, and obviously readable. So don't do like 3-point font. Right. But there were some people that came out with some fucking cool shit, like some really cool shit with like just simple restrictive rules. And I think that's so cool. So I'm excited to see what people do with another jam,
Yeah, I'm stoked for the jams. It's one of those things where I'm like, I want to do this one. I want to do this one. I never do anything, obviously. The closest I came was to the 1-page jam. I was super excited. And there's actually a game I'm still working on where I'm like, this is the one I'm actually going to release sometime. But it started as literally just the front and back of 1 page. And that's not fucking easy. I'll tell you what. That's not a whole lot of a game, I mean, I have mad respect for people that can do like business card games and actually be like, this is awesome,
Yeah.
Because it's like 50 words, that's what you get. So yeah, like you said, I can't wait to see what comes from the Wyrd Jam. Now, we were just talking about your website. I know before the stream you talked about it just a tiny bit. You had started to migrate to basically just your website as a place that people can get your games. What was the impetus to do that, and like how's that process been?
Well, It hasn't been super great, but it's a challenge, because I'm still using. I've just actually went back to also publishing on itch in the past like week, because I really wanted to get some of these games to get some sales, because itch has like their own built-in algorithm for putting things on their front page and showing people things that they wouldn't normally look at and stuff like that. Whereas my website is its own thing and it just exists, right? So that's been a challenge. Marketing is not easy, nor do I really enjoy it. So it has been a challenge. But the reason I did it was because I wanted to start distributing my own products. One of the main reasons is because Shopify is really easy. Is a really easy system for selling. Like there's inventory management and built-in like tools for shipping and all kinds of stuff like that. So it makes it really, you can print packing slips and shipping labels and all that stuff. It's all built into their system. So it's super easy to run. And I didn't really want to deal with all that from itch, because selling physical products on itch felt a little bit more difficult. I would have to like search through emails and see my sales and figure out which ones were physical products and then go email the people, or like, figure out how to get shipping. I didn't just feel like dealing with all that. I also wanted to move into distributing other people's products as well. So that was one of the other reasons why I kind of switched over to my own website. And it's just it's a nice thing to link your website. That's like the vanity part of it, right? It's just like, hey, check out my website, right? And it's my thing. You go on there, it's only my stuff or stuff that I have chosen to put on there. And all the money goes to me. Like there's no percentage that comes out to, whatever. So that was kind of a thing. It is a challenge though, because there is not really anyone that promotes it but me. I have to do a lot of marketing work, and This House is Haunted did pretty good. I luckily got a couple distros to pick it up as well to help me kind of fund the print runs, because that's kind of a big deal. Upfront costs is pretty hard with books. But yeah, I'll tell you, it's a lot different than a crowdfund.
I bet.
It is. Oh my God. So much. Yeah. I was doing the shipping info for The Dark last night, and I was just looking at all the people that bought books. And I was like, there's so many people that bought these books. And that was just because a crowdfund that I kind of promoted, like on Twitter a couple times a week, right? It's a lot different. Yeah.
And we'll get to that for sure.
Yeah.
Now, so are you planning to try to be completely only on your website, or are you gonna do, because I know there's a bunch of creators out there that do like, you can get the digital stuff on itch, but if you want physical copies, it's on my website. Are you gonna try to kind of split the difference that way, or are you gonna eventually try to just be your website?
Eventually I would like to just be on the website. But that was what kind of this House is Haunted and the Halloween games. I realized, you know what? I didn't have a long time to promote these, because we were kind of like in a crunch period right before October came out. And I want to get these to people before October is over, because they're specifically for this month. I was like, you know what? We're just going to push these out on itch and get some more eyes on them, because why not? Like I already have the itch set up. There's no reason to just abandon it 100% when I could be benefiting from it. But eventually I would like to migrate away from it. And I do know there's a lot of creators that use both. I think if it made sense to keep it up just for digital, I would keep it up just for digital. And right now it is just for digital. So I would probably just keep it at that way. Gotcha. I would have to figure out. So for right now on my website, I have automatic discounts for, if you buy a PDF, you automatically get 25% off applied if you decide to pick up a physical print copy of whatever you bought. So I would have to figure out a way to do that with itch. I don't know, maybe some kind of code I would email people or something, but that's a discussion for another time.
Gotcha. I think, and this might be just like a random thing, I've gotten emails before when I get a PDF, and just attached in the PDF like file thing is just a thing that says email here for this code or something. So it's just one more
okay.
file in the folder.
Yeah. Figure that out.
So you're looking to become a distributor. I mean, Tom's in the chat, and like, you know, IPR, Spearwitch, Ratty. Like, do you want to get to that point where you're like a Spearwitch kind of thing, making games and but distributing a ton of games too, or primarily game maker with some small distribution, or what?
I think my goal right now, and as far as I can really see, is just very limited, specific things that I want to pick up. So like, Tom's a good friend. Love Tom. I bought Fungible for my website because I think it's going to be a fucking great game. And
Great, yeah.
So I was like, I'm gonna buy this book and put it on my website because, you know, at the very least, I lose a couple bucks on my business account, but I'm supporting my friend who is making a cool book, right? But I don't think I'm gonna lose any money because it's a good game. And that's kind of how I'm looking at it right now. Like, it's mostly going to be for my stuff, but I do want to move into limited and very specific and targeted distribution for things that I personally think are really cool, even if they aren't going to be popular. Even if somebody else doesn't find them popular, I might be like, yo, this is really cool. I'm going to spend $50 on a couple copies and like put them on my website, you know, just to help you promote, you know, help promote stuff. Hopefully I wouldn't ever, well, I don't know. My goal is not to reach Spearwitch level. Jared's cool, so I wouldn't want to even be in competition with him. But I mean, I'm selling my books to Spearwitch, so I can't even.
There you go.
But, yeah.
One of the things we talked about, or we touched on a second ago, was crowdfunding projects. One, we'll talk about the dark. But two, how was the process of crowdfunding a project?
It was the worst. I don't recommend it for anybody. And I'm trying to avoid crowdfunding for the rest of my life. But it is also easy money, which is the problem. So this is the dark. We've got the shipping is going out for this in like the next 2 weeks. So anybody that bought it is going to get some copies. And then finally, I'll be able to put the rest on my website and people can pick it up after everybody else has their copies. But this was a passion project I've been working on. And I was like, you know what, let me crowdfund this because I really want to get a lot of books out to people. And it blew up like my first crowdfund and probably only crowdfund. But it blew up and I was utterly amazed at how much people like were interested in it. But it's also just crowdfunding is a job. Like the work that you have to do to manage all these, like all the promotion for it and, you know, constantly answering questions about like things that you've already answered several times. Like you just constantly getting emails like, hey, when is this happening? And I'm like, I've already sent you an update like several times. Like, please stop asking. But
hey, listen, a person is smart. People are stupid. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
no, for sure. Yeah. So it's a job. Like crowdfunding, if you're not a project manager, like I keep talking about Tom because Tom is literally like that's his thing. Tom loves project managing. And he helped me a lot with this, you know, sending out emails to like LGSs all over the United States. He was like a big help in my crowdfunding aspect. So I can't thank him enough for his help. But it probably wouldn't have been as successful if he didn't do that work for me, which I did pay him for. So let's be clear about that. But I don't want to do that again. It was just even with This House is Haunted, I considered crowdfunding it. I also considered selling it to EF and doing like their print partnership, which would have gotten more eyes on the book right away. But I just was like, I want to do this by myself. I have money already. I could do a pre-order for a hardcover print run and then let like, you know, let the rest of the let another print run be covered by a couple sales to some distros and print this myself and see how that does. And it's done okay. You know, it's not done nearly the numbers that ARC did, because GameFound is a crowdfunding program, and they advertise and send emails and post blogs, and it's on the front page, and everybody can see it. Whereas this is literally me and my website publishing, like I was talking about earlier, publishing marketing emails and stuff like that. So it's a challenge, but it's one of those things that I don't like marketing, but it's something that I want to be better at, because I think that it's a skill that I need to develop. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. But the crowdfunding, I didn't enjoy it, and GameFound made it even harder, because GameFound is a terrible fucking platform.
That was my next question. Let me cross that off. All right.
Yeah. I listened to the interview with Adam, and I know, and me and Adam talked about it a little bit at some point in the past couple of months, but GameFound is just not a great. For me, I didn't have as much problem with their self-promotion or with their promotional aspects as much as I did with their website's interface. Is terrible to navigate and incredibly difficult to figure out where things are and how to set up things. And like, it took me several weeks to figure out where my orders were. Like I was just navigating the website looking for, and I would see something and I would forget which thing I clicked, and I had to go. And then eventually I just had to email somebody and be like, yo, where the fuck do I get this shit? And they were like, oh, on the homepage, you click this button to this button, and then you go to this. And I was like, are you fucking serious?
There's not just like an orders button. Like, that's literally the whole purpose of like what we're doing here.
There is, but it's like, there's also another thing in the order. There's another orders button that doesn't go to the same page. And the orders button that I was clicking was on a different section of the website in the dashboard. That's not the same. It is a nightmare.
So if somehow you crowdfund a project again, not GameFound, is what we're saying here.
Yeah, not GameFound.
That's 0-2 for GameFound on people on the show. Just throwing that out there. It's interesting, the crowdfunding in general, because I mean, there are creators out there, people like Philip Ree, Christian Eichhorn, stuff like that, who like, this is their whole job, is just running crowdfunding projects. They put out cool content, but it's like one crowdfund and the next crowdfund and the next crowdfund and the next crowdfund and the next crowdfund. And some of those people at this point, it's like, I assume they're just like so dialed into the process, and it's got a lot of the same people are back in the next one. But if it's, I mean, that's like you just said, that's a whole job. That's literally like all they do is just drop the thing. I don't know how they get time to actually put out content when it's like every 4 months there's like another project that they're rolling out. It's crazy.
Yeah, and the other thing about crowdfunding that is a big thing for me is that it's kind of like one of those, it's like a flash sale kind of thing where everybody gets real hype about it for like a week and everybody dumps their money into it. And then you just forget. Like, I got a crowdfunded book in the mail that I forgot I bought. Like, because nobody talks about the shit, right? And that's one of the things I don't like about the crowdfunding aspect, is that and for the dark, I know that this is a fact because nobody's fucking talking about this right now. Even though I'm hoping that will change once the book is published and I start promoting it again. But but right now, nobody's talking about this game. But when it was out, I had several people AP it. Or when the crowdfunding was happening, I had several people AP it. I had a couple blogs cover it. I had people doing like, actual plays in text and like all kinds of shit. So, and they weren't things that I was necessarily asking for. I had asked like maybe 1 or 2 people to do it, but I had a bunch of people doing that. And that's one of those things that I think that crowdfunding has a negative aspect of, is that there's a huge hype machine when it's live. And then once it's done, it's done. And basically like what Tom said, fire and forget. Like, people literally shoot their money at you and then forget that they even did. And I honestly guarantee you could probably run a low fund campaign and just not even fulfill it, and you would probably have like five complaints. Like, people would just forget that they even bought something from you. Like, that's how.
Did you say Avatar? I know.
Yeah,
I don't
right.
know about.
Yeah, there you go. Right. Nobody's talking about that game. And that was one of the biggest, that's the biggest crowdfunded game in the history of Kickstarter. And I remember that I bought that game. I'm going to sell it as soon as it comes in. But it was a year and a half ago, I think, at this point.
But this is the problem, I think. Like, I've had a couple
Yes,
let's
Tom,
say-
you're
let's
right.
say-
That is fraud. We do not. I was just saying, as an example, you could.
Oh yeah, sorry. We don't promote fraud on the Weekly
No.
Scroll podcast, just for you guys listening and watching.
Yeah.
So for a couple of examples, one I thought was the one that jumps out in my head right away is Red Giant from I don't know why it's blanking in my brain right now. But when they put out this book, it literally was like, we're done. It's done. As soon as the campaign's over, you're going to get a PDF, and then here's a code, and it goes out. So from the time that you pay for the thing on day one and get it in your hands, it was literally like 40 days.
Yeah.
And to me, like that is a fantastic way to do a project. Rookie Jet Studio. I'm sorry, I blanked on that. I wanted to make sure that I said that. When you look at a game like Avatar, right? You get this huge campaign and all these people talk about it, but there's one, everyone sees it at the same time. A little bit of promo, but you hit start and the whole world sees it at once, and everyone can get hyped at the same time. But then when you get to the point where it's like, okay, we're going to write it, it's going to be a year before you hear anything.
Yep.
Right? Everything dies down. And then the backers get the PDF version, and then like 6 months goes by, and then the backers start to get physical versions, and then 6 months goes by, and then it's open to the public. All of these people that were so hyped for it and wrote blogs and stuff for it and whatever. So a lot of projects, and I've backed, I'm well over 300 now on Kickstarter, and I can tell you, it's like Christmas all the time. We're like, oh, what is this? Oh wait, let me go back and see when I actually got this. But I think that's part of the problem, though, is that from the hype to actually the public getting access to it, for most projects, I would say the average time it takes for me to get a Kickstarter project is a year and a half.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you can't hype for a year and a half.
No, you can't. And that was one of the things that I was a little not annoyed with, but just like it was dragging, was with this. I had these books in my house 4 months ago. Like literally, I think I ordered them the day after the campaign ended, or maybe a week. No, it would have been a week or two after the campaign ended, because I had to wait for the payment to clear. They came in like within 2 weeks, and I had them in the house. But because I had like a fool planned stretch goals, I was like, oh fuck, now I gotta wait for all this shit instead of just putting these books out, because I don't want to, and I'm super happy. I got, I don't know where the fuck they are. My cassettes, the cassettes just came in for the companion album that I commissioned, right?
And those candles.
Oh, the candles down. Yeah, the candles are fucking fantastic. But the candles were done the week I ordered them. Like, this girl Tosh, she's fantastic. She got them all done right away. But I've been waiting on all the extra stuff, and that was one of the things. That's another thing about crowdfunding, is like you kind of have to have all that extra stuff and stretch goals to entice people to give you more money, so you can make sure you hit your different goals for printing costs and things like that. But every single thing you add adds time to your wait, right? If I hadn't had any stretch goals or any bonus content, this would have been in your hands 4 months ago. But because of that, I had to wait. And that's not a negative thing, because I'm really proud of this book. I think this is a really good game, and all the stuff that we're getting and shipping out is awesome shit. We got the LFOSR books and the bullet journals and the cassette tapes and the stickers and the candles, and the music that Iagon did is incredible. I don't know if you downloaded it yet. I sent out the Bandcamp codes like last week, I think. But it's fucking incredible stuff. So I'm really happy with it. But that is an example of, just for a small solo game, the things that I thought would be fun and exciting to add as bonus things really ended up causing a huge delay in the shipment process of it. And that's one of the things that I'm like, I don't really want to do that again. I want to just, when this is done, I want it to be done. When the book is published or printed, I want to sell it. And if people want to buy more stuff, I can be like, okay, well, hey, guess what? I have a lot of money left over from the pre-orders here. Let me send somebody some money and write an album that can go with this or some shit like that,
Right.
And now it's available on my website. If you already own this, here's a discount code, kind of thing like that,
See, that's such a smart way to do it, because even if you let's say you crowdfunded again in the dark and then put out the candles and all the other stuff like on the website with discounts, that's a way to get it in people's hands, and then kind of do stretch goals later with incentives for it or whatever. Yeah. But I mean, and again, that's why the people I see Philip Reed and Christian Eichhorn because they're the people that I see literally doing it all the time. 0 stretch goals, not a single stretch goal. They're like, this is it. And Philip Reed will even do one day crowdfunding projects. Like, I mean, I know that I can't think at all. Spencer Campbell did Rune for 1 week and was like, thank God if I had to do this for 3 more weeks, I'd have, freaked out. So I can't even, it's hopefully something that I never want to do.
I only did the dark for 14 days because I had already seen several people. I don't know any of Spencer's work, but I've seen a lot of other people talk about how long crowdfunding is. Like the standard 30 days is like a century of marketing, and I was like, I'm not doing that. Like 14 days, like it's a low goal. I think it was $1,500 was the goal, and I hit that like within the first 24 hours. And I was just like, I'm not even going to try this. Like, this is ridiculous. So
what do you think? What do you think made the dark kind of blow up from that? Do you think it was like the Wretched Alone system? Do you think it was just good marketing at the right time? Like, do you think it's just because it's fucking awesome? Like,
well, yeah, it's fucking awesome. It's a good game.
I mean, I agree. I do have it, and it is awesome.
I'm not sure. I think it was the first time I really marketed myself. So I had a lot of help from Tom again. He's basically my employee at this point. The concept, I think, maybe resonated with people a little bit. I'm not sure. I wrote this based off The Ritual, which is one of the best movies of all time, in my opinion. I absolutely love that movie. And I think maybe, I'm not really sure, to be honest. I guess people thought it was cool. Yeah. Like the candles was a fun, I think maybe that might have enticed some people, as the idea of using candles instead of a block tower, Jenga tower. You're right in saying Ozo, The Ritual is god tier horror.
I have not seen The Ritual. I mean, got it on the list.
It is incredible.
Put it on my list.
Watch it and then play the dark.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I've read a lot of the dark. It's one of those things though. It's like, you don't want to read the whole thing cover to cover and then play it. It's like,
Yeah. But I think maybe the candles thing was helpful because I thought it was pretty unique. That was something that Gabe from Copper State Games gave me. He had play tested the game in its original format, which I think maybe used a block tower at the time, way back in like April or something. And he was like, wait, what if you did like a 10 candles thing where you used candles? And I was like, holy fuck, that's a good idea. Holy shit.
Game too. Yeah.
And then I literally spent like, I think 12 hours doing like over a period of a couple of days working on this like equation, trying to figure out how many candles I needed to equal how many blocks you would pull out of a Jenga tower before it falls. And it was a lot of math for somebody that's not good at math. So, but I got it. I think I got it. I might actually have put too many candles. I think you should only have 2 candles, but 4 candles is good. No, it was really fun. This was a fun one to develop because of that, like that aspect, trying to figure out how that works. And then writing the prompts and stuff was Wretched and Alone is not actually it's not an easy system to write. It's very simple system. And this goes back to what when we first started talking, like game design can look and is to some degree somewhat easy, but there is a lot that goes into writing that is very difficult, and to make it clear. And that was something that I really kind of discovered with this one.
Well, that kind of ties into the thing you said too with the dark, like you didn't make a whole new system because you had the dark, you used Wretched and Alone to do it. Did that ever cross your mind, or when you thought of the dark, was it always going to be a Wretched and Alone game?
I think when I first came up with this, it was going to be a Wretched and Alone game. The original I'm trying to remember if this kind of spawned itself out of Evergreen Wilds, because Evergreen Wilds was originally going to be a Wretched Alone game last year, like I think it was like I don't even know, last summer. I came up with that in like June of like 2021, and then I moved away from Wretched Alone and then moved into something else, but I still had that Wretched Alone thing sitting in the back of my head, and then that kind of came out here. I think it would have worked. See, this is a good example too. The Dark, I'm really proud of this. Love this game. Want everybody to buy it. But I think this would also be great as an adventure for something too. Like, this concept is a great example of, where do I write this as a game or do I write this as an adventure? And I'm really glad that I wrote this as a game, because it's a great game and I'm proud of it. But I also probably will at some point take the same concepts and turn it into an adventure. Like, yeah, because it is one of those things where, why, like, and I'm glad I would not have taken this and written my own system for it. I'm glad Chris has Wretched and Alone out there, because, you know, it's a great solo system for people to use. But yeah, I'm looking at this now and I'm like, all right, wait, hold on. Like, right now I'm literally thinking, how do I, because the monster and the ritual is so good. It is so good. No spoilers. I won't say any spoilers, but it is so good. And I'm just like, okay, now I'm going to write an adventure for this.
All right, let's do it. Well, then you heard it here first on the Weekly Scroll. This is going to be the Dark, the adventure version. I had a question about when you were talking about not going with EF and printing your own thing. How was like the self-printing process for a book, like finding a publisher, like doing all that stuff? Like, how does that go? Do you have like a local printer and then they do all that kind of stuff, or how did the hardcover, softcover of like This House is Haunted kind of play out that way?
That was pretty easy. I just used Mixam. Mixam's really easy.
Oh, Mixam. Okay.
Yeah. There is a local printer that I'm actually probably going to, a friend of mine used to work there, called Fireball Printing, and they do booklets and stuff. They don't do hardcovers or anything, but I was going to get in contact with them, because if their prices are equal or even close to Mixam's prices, then saved me on shipping and time, developmental time, and all kinds of stuff. It's a much smaller print shop. So, but Mixam's great because, they have a lot of their customer services. Incredible. Like, for a huge print company, you send them a message or call them and you get a real person within like 5 minutes, like literally answering all your questions. With This House is Haunted, I wanted the books as soon as I could after I uploaded them, and the layout and art and all this stuff took a long time, and the editing was a whole process because it's a really big book, and Tom did a great job editing this book, but it's got a lot of text in it that he had to go through like a bunch of times. So it took a lot longer to kind of develop and get ready for print than I wanted it to. So when I actually had it ready for print, it was like the last week of September, and their normal production and shipping time is like 2 to 3 weeks. Then I called them and I was like, I need this book like October 1st. And I know that I'm late, but like, I need this because it's like for Halloween. And the guy on the phone was like, all right, hold on. I'm going to move your production to a production facility that's in Baltimore instead of the standard one that we use over here in wherever. And then I'm going to put an urgent notice on your order so that they know that as soon as this is done, it needs to be ready for shipping the same day. And I got it like 4 days after I ordered it. Like, and I was just like, I was so thrilled with that I was like, there's no reason, like, Mixam's fucking great. Like, holy shit. And their prices aren't bad. Like, they have a lot of options, especially for the hardcover. Like, I could have gotten the ribbons done, but that's, more money. And the book's not big enough for ribbons, but I was like, do I want ribbons?
Ribbons are nice. I mean, I love a good ribbon.
Yeah, I know you do.
I was supposed to ask you about the math that went into the D666 table.
Oh, Jesus. How long did it take us to figure out how many? Me and Tom were so bad at math. I think we spent like an hour one night, like trying to figure out how many entries go into a D66 table because we could not fucking remember. Yeah, we were like, is it 218? Is it 236? Is it 216? Like, what the fuck? And I had to like go through and count every single one. And then after like the book was in layout, I realized that I missed one. Like a whole number, like a whole entry, I just wasn't in there, and I was like, "Fuck!" And so I had to come up with one on the spot, and then I'd be like, "Is this work? Does this work?" But yeah, that was hilarious.
So what is the final number? What is D666?
Don't ask me. I don't know. I think it's 6 times 6 times 6, right? It's yeah. So it's 2. Okay. Hey, Thrift, thank you. Thrift has written the D6666 means twice, I think. So Thrift would know. Yeah.
216, 1296. There we go.
1296. Yeah, that's yeah.
Can you imagine doing 1296 problems of like literally fucking anything?
I can't, and Thrift has done it twice for Troika, so she gets all the praise in the world for that.
Man, we talked about Troika. You're a huge Troika fan. I'm still on the fence. You know what I got recently that made me not like Troika more, but is the kind of Troika I liked. I actually recently got the Metagorgos book. That they finally put out. It's more of an adventure than a lot of the other Troika books that I've gotten. A lot of Troika I get is like, here's like 1 page of setting and here's like 30 something backgrounds, go play a game. But I'm like, I need more. Like I need it's a lot of implied stuff and a lot of like open doors for you to run into. I need a little bit more. And Metagorgos has an actual like setting and stuff for it. I'm like, that literally like, okay, now I get Troika, you know what I mean? Because it's a great setting. Or it's a great system. So I think more than anything, it's just the way that people write the supplements. I'm like, I need just a little bit more structure. My brain does not function in a way where I can just like have someone open a door and go do whatever you want. Like I need hallways, you know what I mean? I need other doors to open.
Yeah. No, for sure. And that's actually something I've kind of migrated into as opposed to away from, is using and enjoying adventures, pre-written adventures, as opposed to this like PBTA style, like anything goes. You just play the story and narrate what happens and see where you go. No adventures, kind of like no prep GMs and stuff. Like that's how I've always played. But lately I'm like, no, people put a lot of effort into writing adventures and people are really good at writing adventures. Why would I not want to play them? Right? They're so cool. I haven't gotten Metagorgos yet. I've heard it's fucking amazing. I do have a great one called The Forest Primordial, which I really liked. I ran that for my girlfriend last year, and that was this year, and it's really good. But that's actually one of the reasons why I'm running the Troiktoberfest Jam, is because I want more people to write Troika adventures, because so many people just write backgrounds, which is what you're saying, is that there's books, and that's not a bad thing. Backgrounds are fun. Backgrounds are super fun. I write them, love them. I've got a thing of backgrounds coming out next year with a couple other really cool people. But that was like, everybody fucking writes backgrounds. I want more Troika adventures, because Troika adventures, if for nothing else, are just fun to read because they're just so wild. Yeah. And I want more of that. So like that, I was like, let me do a game jam on itch, but you're not allowed to do anything except for write an adventure for Troika. That's what it's for, and you don't get to submit anything else.
No backgrounds, no nothing. Just give me the adventure.
I specified you are not allowed to add backgrounds to your adventure. If you do, it gets disqualified from the jam. Like, you're not allowed. It's adventures only. So
then listen, that's the jam. I gotta snatch onto that when we eventually play Troika here on the Adventure Archive. So yeah. Really excited to and Metagorgos too. Like I said, the problem with collecting so many games, because I have too fucking many games, and to the amount of money I spend, it's unnecessary. But the problem is with adventures and stuff like that, I never want to read them. Right? So like the number of games that we've reviewed on stream, and I'm literally like, I want to read the adventure for this so bad, but I also want to fucking play this adventure. And if I read it, I can't ever play it. Like, I haven't read the starter adventure for Cyborg. I haven't read the starter adventure for, like Frontier Scum, like any of those things, any of the ones that we've gone over, even, I read the one for Durf because I'm going to do Durf. And I'm like, I just want to read this so bad. But maybe Jason will run it, and maybe I'll actually get to play this one, Yeah. So Metagorgos, I've touched into it a little bit. I've done whatever. I've seen the structure of it a little bit more. But I'm like, man, if I could get like Andy to run Metagorgos instead of me having to run it, and I get to experience it, that'd be great. So we'll see. But Troika Jam means there's a ton of adventures out there, so that's always an option.
Yeah, I mean that's like I was about to say the same thing as thrift. Just fucking read them anyway, man. Like I know that there's that sense of exploration and discovery when you go into this like adventure completely blind, right? I know that feeling, but like if there's something you really want to read, you just got to read it. Like The
I
Isle,
know.
Luke Gehring's The Isle is like spectacular.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I have a picture of me reading it in my pool. Like I was literally like, that's how engrossed in it I was. It's just so good. And I already forget like almost all of the thing because I read it like 2 months ago or whatever.
Yeah.
So like maybe that's a plus side of having ADHD is that I can read adventures and then not even remember I own them, and then somebody else will run them and I'm like, wait, that sounds familiar.
The number of times I've had to dig through my library to be like, do I own this book yet? Because I feel like I own this book already, but I don't own this book yet. And then I'm like, oh wait, no, I do own it, and I read it like 3 times. It's too many times.
Yeah.
Like the number of times I've almost bought Bones Deep again is ridiculous. And then all of the post-it notes that have to like constantly be here. What I got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have 9 post-it notes in front of me right now.
Oh, you're more organized.
Forget why I wrote half of them. No. But yeah, what did I feel like I scratched off my last question with the D66 math? What else do we got to talk about?
I got some upcoming things that I'm excited about working on.
Hit me with what's upcoming. What do we got coming up?
I got a Mothership pamphlet coming out. Still finishing that up, so I don't have a time frame for that. I got 2 Troika things I'm working on. One will be sometime next year. It's a bigger adventure that I'm working on that I'm trying to explore some of my childhood trauma from religion with. So we'll see how that works. Which is another reason why I think adventure writing is so cool. It's a good way to explore that kind of stuff. And then we got a big project I'm working on with Tom and a bunch of other people.
Yeah, I've chatted with Tom a bit about that.
Yeah, which is going to be really cool. I'm excited about that. And let's see, I got a project that I'm working on with Luke Gehring and a couple other people. That's going to be it's just a Troika background goofy project, but it's fun. It's called D66 Pack, and it's going to be 36 coasters. Each of them has a unique Troika background on it, and they're written by 6 different authors, each author doing 6 backgrounds.
See, that's awesome though. That's something you can like have and use and like have people over and like have fun with. That's awesome.
Yeah, so I'm working on finding a laser cutter right now, or a printer, to do like wooden ones, and probably do a pre-order situation for that just to cover the costs
and
for
plus,
it.
And plus Luke Gehring, I mean, Luke Gehring is a really, really awesome writer. So working with...
he's really great.
How has it been working with, like, I mean, did you know a lot of people in the industry a year ago when you first started, or is this all just come about?
No.
You know?
No, I didn't really. I still feel like I don't know anybody. But no, I mean, it's kind of, you meet the right person, you make the right friends, and then you just kind of meet people through a chain of people. And I would say I gotta say, like, going back to like our first thing we were talking about when I first got started, like Jarrett Crater from who was at Exalted Funeral, he's just like he's like the reason why I'm still doing this. He is like an amazing person, first off, but he kind of like gave me a lot of guidance for no reason. Like, he saw the game that I wanted to publish. He was the first person that ever bought one of my games on itch, and I was like, who the fuck is this? And then I realized who it was, and I was like, why the fuck did he buy my game? And then I think I sent like a digital version out to like the Exalted Funerals Discord, and I was like, hey, check this out. And then, like, I don't remember if I emailed him or if he messaged me on Discord and was like, hey, do you want to print this? And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, and he just, he helped me so much. He did a lot of editing for me in the early stages before like I had any money to pay people for editing. And he was just like, let me just do this. Like, I'll just help you out. Like, you're getting started. And he pointed me in the right direction, gave me all kinds of like tips and like and he's still like he's amazing. And that's one of the reasons. And he's one of the people that kind of connected me to other people. And that's kind of where I was getting with that. But I wanted to make sure I went back to that and just gave him like the biggest shout out of all time, because the dude is incredible. I wouldn't even be doing this if it wasn't for his like encouragement in the early days. So yeah, that's that answer.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't had the pleasure, but I know a lot of people. You are not the first person that said that that he is an awesome person. So really interesting to see how some of the stuff is going to play out with some stuff. I even forget the question that I asked that even got us to that question.
Did I know people before or
right?
Yeah,
and then you were talking about the
a lot of these connections are a lot of these connections are newer. Within the past few months, but it's one of the things I've come to realize is that like these people, they're also just people, so like a lot of these people seem like these like big scary game developers. Like Luke Gearing is like literally a goofball. He's this big scary dude who writes great stuff, and he's like the big name guy, right? And he's a fantastic writer, but he's also a fun guy, and he's just a cool dude. Right. Like, so like you just message him and be like, hey, do you want to do this thing? And he'll probably be like, yeah, probably. Yeah. Do that. Like I was like, hey, do you want to do a stupid coaster project for Troika? And he was like, that sounds really cool. So, like that's,
I'm trying to get there. It's, like if I saw like fucking, I don't know, a Kardashian or some shit walking down the street, I'd be like, a Kardashian, whatever, But then when somebody in our little niche that like 99.9% of the population doesn't know about, I'm just like, oh man, like I got a tweet or whatever. And I'm trying to get past that. It's funny because I wrote something about that once where I basically said that similar thing, and then like Yohai Gal like tweets on my thing like, hey, we're just people, and I'm like, I call my wife. I'm like, this person that I know that you have no idea who I'm talking about. But Karen, you've heard me say Karen before, right? Yeah.
I remember that exact feeling.
Yeah, it's cool. But I don't think it's ever gonna go away, because I mean, even you, I mean, we've been talking on Twitter for a couple months now, right? Like at this point.
Yeah.
And it's, and how long was it before I even asked you to come on the show? You know what I mean? But a lot of it's that, you know what I mean? A lot of it's just like feeling, like we're fucking nothing, you know what I mean? As far as this podcast goes, it always started as just like me dicking around, Hunter hopping on and doing whatever. And then I've got to meet awesome people like you, who at this point, this is why we do it, is it just makes our fucking day. Like whenever we get to have like not only an awesome creator whose stuff we enjoy playing and love reading, but then like you said, like they're just people, and just about everybody I've got to talk to in this scene at least is good fucking people, there's very few people that I've been like, man, all right, well, glad that one's over, you know what I mean? So, which is, I mean, it's great, but also like, Twitter's a hellscape, and I do my best to really filter down to a very direct audience with that, so I cannot get, we've lost too many people recently in the industry, too many good people because of that kind of stuff. So the block button is the thing. Make sure you use it. So anything else we got coming up? I know you said a Mothership pamphlet, which I can't wait for Mothership to come out. I know a lot of people are dropping a lot of Mothership stuff, and I can't wait for 1E. But anything else on the horizon? We talked about the Wyrd framework, Mothership pamphlet. You got the coasters coming out. Big project with Tom that I'll probably talk to Tom
Troika
at
stuff,
some point.
Guild game.
That is what I was trying to get to. Guild game. You sent me. I got a copy of that a while ago to go through. It's awesome. What's the plan with Guild game? Like when are we going to get the Wyrd framework in Guild game actually like out? And is it going to be website only? Are we getting print?
It will very likely be print. That's the plan. And I'm thinking I'm going to do kind of what Jared at Spearwitch did with the Isle and the vanilla game, where I'll do a pre-order for the print copy of Guild game, which will come with a print copy of the Wyrd framework, and then afterwards it'll just be print copies of Guild game with no copies of the Wyrd framework. I'm hoping to have that going at some point in November, but we're working on the editing right now. I want to play it a bit. And just, I'm pretty confident in everything I put into the game. At this point, it's a bit different than what I sent you before. Now, I made some minor changes to the way things work, but for the most part, it's kind of the same. But I just want to like actually get it to the table and be like, okay, normally I don't really play test things that are smaller because I've gotten to the point where I can kind of look at it and just be like, okay, is this going to work or not? Which also has helped me clear out my shelves because I can read a book and be like, hey, is this going to work or not? No. Okay. I'm getting rid of this game. But yeah, that's kind of my goal, is kind of just do that. Like make sure it functions properly the way that I want it to. And the way that I really want it to function is that people get it to the table and have fun with it. Like that's the main goal, right? That's the only goal. I just don't want anything to get in the way of that. That's kind of what I'm looking for. So that's it really. November, hopefully, we'll get print stuff going on, and we'll see. Hopefully, it's going to be pretty simple.
Well,
I'm aiming for my girlfriend's working on a nice crisp, like black and white layout. Everything's going to be super clean, simple, a lot different than some of our, like This House is Haunted is pretty wild. So it's going to be a lot different than that one.
It's fun though. It's a good time.
Yeah.
Like I really enjoy, especially when you flip to the very first thing that you like flip to, the very first one. I'm like, this is a good first one. You know what I mean? This is like, it definitely hits you right in the face and goes, oh, this is what this book is. Yeah. So
my girlfriend did a really good job with this. I'm super proud of her work with this book.
It's killer. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. How is it working with your significant other on big projects like this, that like with money involved and everything? Like just
it's actually great. We don't argue that much about most of the stuff, like I don't have a super artistic eye, so I kind of just like let her do what the fuck she wants with her stuff, right? I'll tell her kind of like what I'm aiming for, or like here's a couple things that I think inspire. Like for Guild Game, I showed her the aisle. Micah did great layout on the aisle, and I was like, I don't want it to be this, but like, think simple, clean text, just something easy to read, right? That's kind of all I said, right? For This House is Haunted, I was like, go fucking buck wild with it. Like use, do photo manipulation, do your own sketches, do whatever the fuck you want. And I made a couple changes on my own at the end. Just after seeing everything, I was like, oh, you know what? Maybe I actually want to do this, right? And I ran it by her and we were good to go. Every now and then we'll butt heads on like, I want this, and she's like, no, but that looks stupid. And I'm like, but I want this anyway, so every now and then that happens. But since the website has kicked off and we just did the pre-orders and we're sending out mail, she's been loving that. That's her thing. She loves packaging and sending shipments. So that's like, she's like, I'm in charge of the shit. You don't do fucking shit. You send me the packing slips and then you don't talk to me about it. Like that's, so that's her thing. Which is good because I'm terrible at that. So I'm glad we really like actually balance out really well together with this kind of like business, which is great.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
It's fun.
Yeah. All right. I think I've asked you about just about everything I possibly can imagine. So talk about I know we talked about your website a bunch. We talked about your itch page. Your website is
disastertourism.games. And then,
all you people out there, definitely go check that out. It looks fantastic. You've changed it even since the last time I looked at it, because I think this big header across the top has not always been there. There was like more purple on it, I think, before too. I don't. Maybe. Yeah.
Maybe. I don't remember.
It looks good. It's a great looking website, guys. Check it out.
Thank you.
And then your itch page, you are Disaster Tourism on itch.
Yep, disastertourism.itch.io. I on there just digital stuff. I'm updating. I think right now I have everything up to date as far as what our recent stuff is, and I've kind of removed. I've removed the older things like Bucket Bash and the old Paranormal, old Slasher are off my itch now, and the updated versions are now on there. So if people want to pick them up now, they're going to get the new editions of the games. But you can also get them as a 3-pack kind of thing on my website for a discounted rate.
Now, at one point, your website did have a merch tab that was completely empty. When do we get Disaster Tourism merch? When can I wear a Disaster Tourism shirt?
We had Disaster Tourism merch. We will have it again. Never fear. Kristen is currently working on that. We had a couple T-shirts that were pretty popular. Some people really liked them. Yeah, the melty skull is one of my faves. She's going to redo that one actually, and we're probably going to use some of the money we get out of the books and actually order like stock of shirts instead of doing like a threadless thing. And we're going to do like some patches and some more stickers and stuff like that. So it's coming soon, but we're still working on it.
Gotcha.
And I'll shoot you some freebies for you, because
We're cool people. We're buds. You're now friend of the show, Kirby and Disaster Tourism.
Friend of the show.
So, friend of the show. Part of the elite out there that have been on the weekly scroll. So we're not done yet today. Actually, I know we've been talking about Tom a lot. For those that don't know Tom, Dice Maven, me and Kirby are about to just hop off for just a second, and Tom is actually going to come on, and we're going to go through both Wyrd and Wyrd here on the show in the normal weekly scroll fashion. Talk about these, actually review them as games, because we are ostensibly a game review podcast. And we're going to keep doing the giveaway until the end of the show. And then, we'll pick a couple of winners and we'll send those out to you. Soft covers of This House is Haunted that, we've been talking about. That's my background here, and everything. So Kirby, thank you so much for coming on. I super appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks for, providing the stuff for the giveaways and everything.
Absolutely.
Super excited for everything that's coming out. That, I'm gonna have all of it. So
I know you will.
So stick with us, everybody. I'll be back in just a minute, and we'll keep going. So see you in just a second. Hello, and welcome to the Weekly Scroll podcast. I started like we started and haven't been live for an hour and 40 minutes, but we're actually just back. It is me, Ryan, and Tom, also known as Dice Maven. How are you doing, Tom?
I'm doing pretty well. How about you?
I'm very tired and keep blanking out, but we'll get through the day. So for those who have come in the last like 10-15 minutes, we were just interviewing Kirby from Disaster Tourism. And Tom's name came up quite a bit because Tom is a pretty cool person.
Debatable,
I believe at least. We first met during Exalted Con, right? For We Deal in Lead with Colin Lasore.
Yeah, and since then I've also reached out to Colin a bunch more, and I wouldn't say we're buds or anything, but I think this popped up in the interview of like how there's a feeling of like these authors who put out something you really like, and you're just like, oh wow, but then you get to know them, and you're like, oh, you are just a dude.
Yeah. Again, I'm trying to get to that point with a lot of people.
It's weird, man. It's weird.
It is. Speaking of Colin, I'll say it. We might be hearing a little bit more from Colin here on the show in the next couple of weeks. So we'll see how that goes. But since then, we've been chatting a bunch.
Yeah.
And then when I was gonna have Kirby on, I know that you guys are buds. Actually, more than I thought. I didn't know you had done as much work with him as came up during the interview. So, how did you first meet Kirby, whose games we're about to go over?
So it's probably being on the Exalted Funerals former official, non-official Discord, the Necropolis, and they reached out to me, and yeah, we started talking about RPGs and stuff from there. There's some TikTok stuff as well.
Are you guys on the Tickety Talk? Is that a...
We're at one point. I still am. I think the last time I was on there, like, posting anything, like, I look like I'm being held captive promoting my own game.
Gotcha.
So,
what were you? Were you on TikTok for Fungible?
Yeah, there's a pretty awkward, like, I'm bad at writing down things and reading them, so I just had to like keep recording off the top of my head and like say this, say this, say this. I don't think I even blink while doing it.
And now look at us. Now we're here.
Yeah.
So when I finally did ask Kirby to be on the show, we are a game review podcast, so I was like, okay, like we're gonna talk about This House is Haunted. We're gonna do a giveaway, still going on. If you're in chat, you haven't been here from the beginning, just hit ! giveaway. We're gonna be giving away 3 soft covers of Kirby's new book, This House is Haunted. But I was like, what game could we do? And I was like, well, obviously Wyrd. We have to do Wyrd, which means we also have to do Wyrd because Wyrd is not a big game. And we had talked about Profane Word and stuff before as well. So this is what we're gonna do today. That's our plan. Once I stop rambling, is Tom and I are gonna go over Wyrd. I do want to talk about some of your stuff you got going on too. Do you want to do that beginning? Do you want to do that at the end?
Yeah, I don't mind leading a little bit in with that. So you mentioned the Profane Wyrd. The evening before, like we met through playing We Deal in Lead at Exalted Con, I was actually up super late, like since Gabe, the author, had COVID, and we were just trying to get that ash can like out and into the Exalted Funeral free RPG bundle, and like that was the whole thing, and it just completely whacked my sleep schedule. So like because I remember we had to be up pretty early for that, or late, or however you see it, because Colin's time zone.
Right.
So yeah, I did the editing and like dev on that. Gabe is an awesome author. I look forward to seeing the non-Ashcan version. I've been getting teasers of the layout. It looks phenomenal, and it does add a little bit of weird crunch, which some people might like that, some people might not, and that's the beautiful part about the whole Wyrd framework. Like I when I talk to Kirby about it, I say, it's almost more of a game engine than it is a game, but it's still a completely functional game.
Right.
Like it's more minimalist than, say, like Games Omnivorous' 17th century minimalist, which I believe they pull from a lot of similar inspirations as well. Like, I'm not going to put words in Kirby's mouth on that, though. But yeah, so I'm currently working on a flip book, I think is the term for that, where one side has like 30 pages and then upside down, flip it, you got another. Yeah, it's the Divine Wyrd and the Arcane Wyrd, and the Arcane Wyrd covers creating spells. I'm borrowing some ideas from Thriftomancer's incantations for bastards. I do recall asking permission to have roll tables and stuff like that for making cool spells, and I'm very excited about that. Stuff like miscasts, backfiring, and not to pull too much from DCC, but something similar to Spellburn will definitely be in there because it's nice and weird. And then the Divine Wyrd will cover, more clerical priest, I suppose. The like divine side of casting it, if that makes any sense. And
oh yeah, absolutely.
The rituals, and also how to make your own 5-god pantheon. Because as someone who has done a little bit of world building, that's always a bit of a pain,
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I have that on the burners right now, along with How Bizarre, 36 Weird Merchants. And it'll be a little bit of a paragraph prompt, probably a bit less than that, of some quirky merchants that you can just weave into your weird adventures or campaigns. Like, that's what I love about this framework, is that you can expand it into more than a single like one shot. You can actually play a small proper campaign if you want to like tack on these additional things or just make up your own. You can Calvin ball it and it's totally fine.
Absolutely. And like you said, it's more of an engine than anything. And I mean, even looking at Wyrd versus Wyrd, which we're going to do today, you can see like the slight differences. I can create a whole different game. So it's definitely going to be, I'm excited for all of this stuff that's coming out for something that's literally like one of the smallest games I've probably ever read. That's not a business card, you know?
Yeah, it is. I voted for broadsheet when they were choosing formats, but that didn't happen. I was told this was going to be the summer of the broadsheet. I was let down.
I mean, it could be the winter of the broadsheet if you want to start bringing it back. Someone's got to start somewhere.
Maybe. Since I think Mixam does not have trifold pamphlets currently, maybe might be doing the bifolds.
There you go. And is there any non-Wyrd related project you want to talk about or tease a little bit, or are we sticking with?
I'll stick to a theme because
Gotcha.
Anyone who knows that Fungible is currently pre-orderable right now on BackerKit, and there's plenty of links to that on my socials, which are all at Dice Maven. And if you find one that is not me, well, show them some love. Maybe, I don't know.
We talked about it on with Kirby a little bit. I cannot wait for. Did you? I know it was fungiable. Is it? Are we fungible now? We're all fungible. I am
letting I will probably add a note in there saying you can feel free to pronounce this however you like, as I realize it's not quite a portmanteau. It is just it is a name visual gag. And I've heard fungible, fungible. Fungible is what I said at first, because I think I told you it was a shower thought where I'm just going fungible, and that led to the whole concept. So
yeah. What's funny is I've actually some people have looked at it and thought they know the word fungible, but in their head went, well, I guess it's spelled with an I. I wouldn't have thought, and then didn't put together that it was fungi, as in the mushroom, as in like that's a whole thing.
Maybe,
so it's
maybe
kind
a
of
dash would have been a smart idea.
Hey, listen, it's up to interpretation. It is what it is.
And I'm a big fan of that.
Hey, I can't wait. You know what I can't wait for is that challenge coin. That is what
I just pushed out an update a little bit ago on that, and I cannot wait until October 24th, I believe, is when that's going to arrive. The 5 proof copies, and they do look sick.
So a little over 2 weeks, we'll get some on that. And we love LFOSR here, both with the dark, with fungible, and with everything else. So we'll can't quite see. Yeah, I gotta finalize the bookshelf, and then I'll have a nice big LFOSR section that fungible can just go right in there with. So getting to the weirdness here, we're gonna start with Wyrd. I brought up Profane Word. This is from, as you said, Gabe. It's Copper State Games.
Copper State Games.
Yep. Great thing. Excited for the actual edition of this too. You can still find the Ashcan edition on their itch page, if I believe. But this is a really cool kind of big expansion to Wyrd. But Wyrd is probably the smallest game we'll ever talk about on this show. So we're going to get into it. First of all, I mean, even just layout wise, it's all, public domain art, but I love all of it. It's just that, this is exactly like the kind of, medieval-ish kind of, wood carving-ish kind of design. It gives you a vibe the second you see that first page, and just the cover alone, you're like, all right, I know what the fuck this is.
Yeah, and the moment you open it and there's that
yeah, let's get right here.
That's a dog serpent.
Yeah, with wings biting a neck. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it so much. Like, you know what you're getting into right off the bat.
Exactly. And this is Wyrd, WYRD, an ultra rules light OSR sword and sorcerer game for 1 to 3 players. Here is that page that we were just talking about. I think I might be zoomed in a little bit on this. I am. So this does not have singles. This is all spreads. So let me back up just enough to get the full spread on the page. And what I'll probably end up doing, since it spreads the whole way, is to put this into page display, single page view. Let's unzoom this, and then I can actually just tweak the page itself that we're on.
I just went ahead and popped the fungible pre-order store there because there is 1 week remaining on that.
Just shoot me the link. I don't think it let you.
I put it in
drop.
the Discord chat, or did it not? Or not Discord.
Oh, you put it. So you don't got the.
Oh, I don't got the.
Yeah, it's all about the permissions. Just drop the link into Discord and I'll pop it in there.
Will do.
And yeah, definitely check out Fungible. Yeah,
I didn't realize that there was 1 week left. Otherwise, I would have leaned a bit more into there.
There we go. 1 week left.
Because there is still some LFOSR copies as well.
Yeah. Fungible.backerkit.com. You can just Google, FUNGIABLE, Wretched Alone, like all those things. You can get the links to that. We'll drop the link too in our stuff when we put this out as well. So 1 week left. I highly recommend the LFOSR copies and the challenge coins and everything. So snag that. And we'll talk about that again at the end of the stream as well.
Not to get too derailed, the LFOSR copies are really sick as they are being made from a small paper mill in San Francisco, I want to say, that is using the employees' junk mail to repulp and hand make the paper. So it is very fitting for the environmentalist themes, as it has 0 trees used to make this paper.
But also with Fungible and all that kind of stuff, using recycled junk mail also feels very...
Yeah. I think in one of the images teasing that, you can just see like the word like spinach like faintly in there.
Nice.
So anyways, Wyrd.
Yeah, so getting into Wyrd here. Wyrd is a fantasy sword and sorcery tabletop role-playing game for 1 to 3 players. It can be played with or without a game master. Is your destiny to become a great hero, revere the world over, or will you turn your back on what has been afforded to you, taking what you want at the cost of all others? So, I mean, realistically, that's like 10% of the text right there.
Yeah, and that's genuinely almost all you need besides the rolling up a character. When I did my playtesting, I was using a Oracle system that Spooky Rusty recommended, of grabbing any sort of book, opening to a random page, and just picking a random sentence. I think they might have had more rules on it, like rolling for the paragraph or something like that. But I streamlined it a bit and kind of treated it like the Dark Fort supplement for Merkborg. Or I was like, all right, I'll draw the next room and figure out what happens there.
There you go.
Yeah, like that's where I was like, oh, this is good.
Yeah, it's so good too. I mean, as we go through, and again, as everyone sees how short this is, it's so good. Like, I don't know. So finish out this page. Roll 1d3 for each skill. So you get 3 skills: Vigor, Mind, and Power. When you look at the character sheet in the back, which we'll flip to at the end, but you can see it here. Again, just like the rest of it, it's not a whole lot. Vigor, Mind, Power. We got some renown, disdain, name, a couple of things, and that's about it. So this is the core of the thing. You roll 1d3 for each skill. So that automatically tells you right off the bat, you're not a god. You're not like you're. Whew.
Yeah, and that is definitely by design. Like, it's swords and sorcery, lower fantasy. Well, actually, I guess it's still high fantasy, or it's whatever you want it to be technically.
Really, yeah.
As we'll see with Wyrd.
Yeah. So you get vigor, mind, and power, and then you have vitality. So your vitality is equal to 1d6 plus your vigor. So max 9, minimum 2.
Correct.
Yeah. Encumbrance, you can carry up to 2d3 plus power. And spell slots, you can equip spells with slots up to 1d3 plus mind. So again, max 6, minimum 2. And that's a lot of it. So coming into the next one, we're talking about weapons. So one thing you'll get, I mean, especially because this is ultra light, there is, outside of the layout and the pictures and stuff like that, and that little blurb right at the beginning, that 2 lines, there's no implied setting. There's not really a whole bunch else. Like saying it's sword and sorcery, giving you a little blurb and giving you the pictures and the layout is really all you need. You know, and even the name of itself. So you don't need a whole lot of implied setting for something like this. So really, you got that beginning stats. You got weapons, magic, armor, some combat rules, some renown and stuff on the last page, and that's all game. So we're going to go over all of those individually, but it's just not very much, just to show you that it's 2. If you put all of the one and the other, it's about 2 pages, really, 2 and maybe a quarter of a small, I believe, A5 this is.
Yeah, we've joked that Kirby stretched a pamphlet into an entire zine.
Yeah, I mean, this could easily be a pamphlet. Absolutely.
Oh,
yeah.
But I think the layout of it is perfect for what it is.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think the way that it goes, even getting to the pages that it is, I don't think I've ever seen a shorter zine than this, though. Since it literally is just, I mean, I guess 2 pages. It's 2 pieces of paper stapled together.
I think Forget Everything You Know About Bread Robots might be up there, but don't quote me on that.
I guess I do have some that are literally just 1 page folded over.
Yeah.
And I guess that's technically a zine.
I could be wrong about bread robots too. I'm just looking at the shelf next to me.
So weapons, you get to choose whatever weapon you like and assign the size to it. Roll damage based on the weapon you have equipped. If you roll maximum damage on the die, you may roll once more with the next size dice. So exploding dice for maximum dice. I know you're a fan of exploding dice.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So 4 sizes. You got small, medium, large, and ultra. I'm actually going to zoom in on this page a little bit. There we go. Let's just enable scrolling on this because I want to. Actually, let's just go page by page. There we go. Weapons. Choose whatever weapon you like. I said that. So small weapons are things like shivs, blackjacks, and daggers. Damage is only 1d2, and it takes up 1 slot.
Coin flip.
Yeah, coin flip. Medium is long swords, short swords, maces, 1d3, 2 slots. Large is a bastard sword, a war pick, warhammer, 1d6 and 3 slots. And ultra is Vihander and great hammer, 3d3 for 5 slots. I like the use of 2s and 3s a lot in this system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it keeps things nice and simple, and then for rolling the if you I guess for lack of better words, critical hit, you'd roll a d6 on top of that 3d3, which that is a lot of damage.
So, and that's one thing on here. So if you roll maximum on the damage die, you roll once more with a neck size die. So
there's some clarifications for large that need to happen there.
Gotcha. Because if you go, do you go d8? But there's nothing listed higher than a d6.
I think so. I will have to see what happens with the weird framework, but that is an example of a small little thing to iron out there.
Yeah, and that's exactly what Kirby was talking about on the show. There's a couple of things that need to be tweaked a little bit, but it's cool that if you go small, when you roll max damage. So if you roll a 2, that's the thing with the 1d2 though. You got a 50% chance of rolling maximum damage and then rolling another d3 on top of that, which then again is a 33ish% chance of does it all stack if you keep rolling max and max and max? Does it keep exploding, or is it just the first time?
I believe it is just the first time. However,
that's what I would assume.
I have some ideas now.
Yeah, I would just keep. If you could go 2, 3, 6, 8, and just go boom, boom, boom,
Yeah,
boom.
weird hyper violence.
There you go. But I like the way that works out. And again, I really do like the very small numbers associated with it. That your stats are all D3s. The small, an average weapon, medium, an average weapon is still only a D3. The whole game is very. The world, when you have those few points that you're working with, the world feels a lot bigger.
Absolutely. And the use of slots as well, like it's a very intuitive thing rather than having to calculate encumbrance numbers and whatever crunchy systems that we've played in the past where we're like, can I walk? And also, like, this is all playable with a coin and some D6.
Yeah. I mean, theoretically playable with just a D6.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I mean, the 3D3 would be a bit of a pain in the butt, but
you just reroll.
Yeah, just reroll 3 times, and even the D2, 1 through 3 is 1. Well, 1, 2, yeah, and 4, 5, 6 is 2.
Yeah,
or odds, evens, or however.
I believe that was something Kirby had in mind with it, was to just keep it a simple D6 system, so that way you don't have to bust out, your 7 polyhedral shapes.
Yeah, I love that. The game I'm working on, I specifically made things D3s instead of D4s because I didn't want to have a second die in the game. I really enjoy when all you can do is, you could crack open some Yahtzee and play the game if you really needed to. Who doesn't have a couple D6s laying around?
Yeah, or always have your little Chess X minis.
I got a couple fidget cubes even. We could make that work. So after weapons is magic. So create a spell based on the damage type you'd like. The type is up to you, but the greater the power, the more slots it requires. Doubling the slot cost for a spell increases its damage effect by that much. For example, heal at a 2 spell slot cost heals you for 2d2 instead of 1d2. I like it. It's clever. It is one of those things though where it's very open, it's very broad. Like magic in general is like do whatever you want really. But here is the ideas, the little bit of the framework that you can do with it. So it specifically says heal, which is 1d2 and 1d2 damage, which I guess is healing. You're not being damaged by the heal. But
are undead in your game damaged by healing?
That's true. It could be. In mine they would be. And that's 1 slot. But as we just said, if you want to make it 2d2, it's 2 slots. If you want to make it 3d2, it's 3 slots. Yeah, just keep increasing and keeps adding.
It's a little bit Vancian in nature. And I will say the Arcane Wyrd will continue with that a little bit, but it's going to deviate pretty. Like, it'll start reading and then it'll just be like, something completely new.
Interesting. So outside of heal, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 options here. There's, I assume, miscellaneous use, as in something that does not damage. Yeah. So the examples here are levitate and move object. Very open to the GM and your interpretation. I like this idea that kind of innately, and if you read this, and for more experienced players as well, I think if a brand new player picked this up a little bit, I think some of the magic stuff might be a part that's a little bit difficult to kind of grasp. It's kind of that Yes. Paralysis of choice. Wait, I can do anything? I don't fucking know what I can do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the paralysis of choice does make it a bit difficult. Like when you're looking at miscellaneous use, you're like, what do I do?
All right. Yeah. But I think the examples are great. Levitate and move object are okay, it's utility. It's non-damaging. It's just stuff. You know what I mean? Like lighting a light or something, or blowing a wind. I get it.
They're coming from let's say D&D to the more indie OSR micro light scene, as this would be described as. You could say move object would be like mage hand. And
right.
Hence why it does no damage, but it does take up a slot.
Yeah. Even things like invisibility, you know what I mean, is something that I would call miscellaneous use. You're not damaging anything. It's utility for than anything. So make yourself invisible 1 slot, make 2 people invisible 2 slots. It's a way that you can interpret it. And it is base 1 slot. Then there's small, medium, and large uses. So for small, the examples are fire spray, frost, and rock throw. Relatively small versions of things. Fire spray, you can, again, it needs a little context in role-playing games, but you know that spray, bolt, and ball are all very different things, and those are the three things that are listed as the small, medium, and large options with fire here. In a little bit of RPG context, it completely makes sense. I get it. Like, here's a little fire from my hand. Here's a ball of fire. Here's like a baseball I'm throwing, and here's like a fucking run giant ball of fire that I'm throwing.
Yeah,
so.
Or perhaps maybe you could, since these are a little bit, they're intentionally left to the player to decide. So perhaps maybe you like spray out some fire, and
fire
it
sprinkles.
does, just salt bay it out, and it does maybe 1d2, but in a like conal effect.
Right. Yeah. I mean, again, magic, I personally like when magic is very broad like this. But for newer players, I know when I was a newer player, magic like this broke my brain. You know what I mean? Where I was just like, oh man, like what? I can do anything. I can't. So, but yeah, so frost and rock throw, 1d6 damage for that for 2 slots. Medium, as we said, fire spray to fire bolt or lightning bolt, 3d3 damage, and it takes 3 slots. And then large, fireball and earth shatter, 2d6 for 4 slots. So I do think that the examples listed, it does make sense. I think it would just take some getting used to.
And I think for maybe clarification, keeping with the like theme of like firebolt, like shifting to lightning bolt, like maybe having like hurl boulder or something, and then go into earth shatter. That might help with the clarification of scale.
Yeah. I mean, lightning bolt, even if you did like, like a shocking grasp, lightning bolt, and then like call lightning or something like that, it would, completely agree. So it's interesting that it is 3 examples and then just 2 and 2 examples. I'm sure it had to do with just the amount of space that was available between the example and damage. Yeah, layout. So that's magic. And then we get to armor. So armor protects you from hits in combat, but the heavier the armor, the easier you are to hit. Reasonable.
Something to also really address quickly with the magic is those examples are just examples. So if you want to, let's say, have a medium spell that is a magically enhanced fist, like punch that like extends out or something. Like to a nearby range.
If you want to magically fist something, says Tom, then you can in Wyrd.
I mean, Bloodhound Gang said it best. Fist can be a verb. You said it, not I.
Hey. So I do, like you said, I like the list of examples. I think even layout wise, I think even having example listed in the weapon section above here would have been a good idea too, to kind of continue the trend and say that there's more than just these weapons.
Yes. Yeah.
But
actually, I'm going to note that down.
But yeah, so armor protects you from hits in combat, but the heavier the armor, the easier you are to hit. Add modifier to combat rolls. Protection reduces the damage you take. So we know that there is a modifier specifically for armor. This isn't your modifier based on like your stats or anything like that. So linen cloak is a 0. Leather, so there's linen cloak, leather tunic, chainmail, hauberk, plate, breastplate, which
I think breastplate and then full plate should be their own individual things.
Yeah.
But
and then small shield. So you add modifier to combat rolls, and then protection reduces the damage you take. So why do you add modifier to combat rolls? we're gonna get to combat.
I'm trying to remember off the top of my head because I know that we tweaked around with the armor because there was at one point leather tunic was the best option.
Mm-hmm.
So
Gotcha.
I have to
That makes sense.
do asking me questions about something from 5 months ago.
So Linen Cloak actually has 0 modifier, 0 protection, takes up 1 slot, but there's a bonus to it which gives you +1 to spell damage. So basically, if you're unarmored, really, you can take up a slot with your cloak and increase your spell damage. This kind of, really feeds into like glass cannon kind of wizardy build, if that's the direction you wanted to go. Leather Tunic is a 1 modifier, a 1 protection. It takes 2 slots. It also has a bonus, which is +1 small weapon damage. So this really feeds into like, your thief or rogue character with a dagger or a shiv or something like that. I like the way that even in the simplicity of the game that there is things like that can really help feed into and reinforce the rules within the rules that you're doing.
Yeah, like it definitely makes more sense. Like, okay, so I am using, a shiv, so this leather tunic's probably a better option for me. But once again, armor is always an example as well. So you can create your own little things. Like if you wanted to be a spell blade of some sort, so you could shift some things around, make a breastplate that has +1 spell damage, but perhaps lower the protection.
Right.
Like with the array of numbers, it's because they're so small, it makes it so easy to modify. And like with traditional games or more crunchy games, that's where things get difficult with balancing.
Right. And that's why, like you said multiple times, like as a framework and as an engine and things like that, I like that it is enough to play the game, but also not too much that you feel bound by what's written.
Right. And like just looking over here for a random adventure, like I could grab Fever Swamp by Luke Gearing and play this in it, and it converting the creatures over would not be difficult at all.
No.
Once we get to combat section, that'll be explained a bit easier. But trying to remember why Leather Tunic was so busted. I think it also had the spell damage increase as well.
Well then, yeah, increased small weapon damage, increased spell damage, and it only takes up 2 slots. I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah.
You also got Chainmail Hauberk, which is the 2 modifier, 2 protection, 3 slots. Breastplate, which is 3 modifier, 3 protection, 4 slots. And then a small shield, which is 1 modifier, 2 protection, 2 slots. So leather tunic and a small shield will give you 3 protection for 3 slots, which compared to Chainmail Hauberk was 2 protection for 3 slots. So it's really how you want to play the game a little bit, which is a nice still kind of balance within it, which is why we're talking about it, because it's a cool game.
Yeah, and you can shift, let's say you wanted to play a frontliney tank in your group of 3 or more. I do think the 1 to 3 players is a little bit on the smaller side, because you could do a group of 5 with this, no problem. But sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, go for it.
I was gonna say also, you could, increase things up to make a kite shield or a heater shield or something like that. So, there's a lot of fine tuning, and I hope that in the framework that is expressed a little bit more.
I'm excited to see what changes, what stays the same, and what just gets tweaked a little bit when we get to the framework, which might be in November for Kirby. So we'll see. So getting to that combat section, like you were just talking about, combat, you always go first, and enemies only damage you if they win a combat roll. If you tie the roll, the enemy wins. I like that. Tie goes to not the runner.
Yep.
Which is just kind of still adds into that, it's hard, kind of aspect to it. Like you can just assume that you don't win, in situations. Attacking with a weapon, roll a d6. Is that minus power plus armor?
D6 minus power plus armor. Hang on.
Nice.
I've confused myself, and I've played this multiple times.
Yeah. Yeah, the lower roll wins the attack.
Right. Yeah.
Roll
Yeah,
damage. Yeah. So D6 minus power. So actually,
that would be a better clarification of D6 minus power plus your armor modifier, which makes you easier
to
to
lower roll.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So rolling low is good, and the higher the stat you have, the more you'll subtract from your D6. But the more armor you're wearing, so I assume you're adding the armor modifier.
Correct.
That is where the modifier comes in. Yeah.
Yeah. Some parentheses, perhaps, or spacing some things out. Some layout changes, but yes, that is correct. It is D6 minus your stat for what you're trying to do, be it
plus the
attack.
Armor. Yeah.
And
so you're trying to roll
mod.
under. So you roll a d6, and then having a higher power score would mean you subtract more of it. But then the more the heavier your armor is, the more protection you get from it. The higher the modifier is, which you have to add back to your roll, and that's why the bigger the armor you have, the more likely you are to get hit because you're trying to roll under.
Yeah, you're clunky.
Yeah. So it's like a subtraction and then addition, still trying to get to the lowest number possible. And if you roll that less than the enemy's hit die, you hit and you roll damage.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the whole thing. I like how Kirby described it as the lightest rules, crunchiest game that they could make.
Yeah, it sounds way more crunchy than it is. Like when you were asking me, I'm like, I played this. I did a whole solo playthrough in my notebook, and I'm like, I don't remember it being that big of a deal. And then it took a second to like click back in. And the established hit die for the creatures are really nice, and being able to roll,
yeah, it's interesting. Like you just said, it sounds crunchier than it is, and it takes you 1 second to go, oh, I get it. Okay. Channeling a spell, similar. Roll d6 minus mind plus armor against enemy HD. Your hit die. If you roll lower than the enemy, you cast the spell immediately. If you lose the roll, you cast first on the next turn, but take a hit, and then you can roll damage.
Yep.
I like that. Magic is magic. Still feels like magic here with this way that you do it.
And it does make sense when you're channeling something to cast. Like there will be moments where, in this case, we're using RNG, but you're not always going to be able to defend or dodge or evade. You're going to have to just take that stab or what have you, and then you'll be able to get your Earth Shatter off.
Right. Death. If you reach 0 vitality, you are unconscious. A mysterious entity will collect you, and you will be revived in a town. If you go below 0 vitality, you die immediately. There is no recovery. So you got to hit exactly 0 to basically get respawned at your last save point. But if you ever go below, you're just dead. There's no saves, there's no nothing. I like that there's no saves or anything, really. Like, your save is try to get exactly 0. That's about the best you can get.
Yeah, and that one's a little bit of an interesting design choice to me, because with the various protections and stuff, like now it's like, well, armor does seem a little bit more valuable if that can chip off, let's say, 3 damage on a possible 1d6 from a great boss.
Right. Yeah. So, and like you said, it really comes down to how you want to play the game. If you're trying to do a bunch of damage, if you're trying to survive, like how it works, you know, or do you want it to be attrition the whole time, or do you want it to be, you know, quick, potentially in and out, deadly? And I can just imagine like someone in a dungeon just like hitting 0, getting deposited in town, and like trying to run back in, hitting 0, getting deposited in town, and kind of run back in. I think there's some comedy that could really come into that as well, as you like keep almost dying but getting deposited by some strange entity. It almost feels like when you go off the track on Rainbow Road in Mario Kart, and that little thing on the cloud like
just
picks you back up and like
track.
deposits you back down. Yeah.
I may have been talking to Gabe about this, but this could be a complete fever dream. So I'll say it's a fever dream idea of having saves based off of like your, I want to say like armor mod or something like that, to add a little bit more. Okay, second wind. I think that was a conversation and might be seen in the Profane Wyrd or some other supplement. Kind of all blends together at a certain point. But
at this point, when you're working on like 4 weird projects at the same time, it kind of...
Yeah. The idea there, I would say, was more like very akin to Cyberpunk's death system, if you're familiar with that. Like, you'd be mortally wounded at 0, given an increasingly like high chance of death. But so I think that would be something that would be in the Profane Wyrd, but as that adds depth, like more depth and crunch.
Right. Which again, I mean, we're not going to go over the Profane Wyrd today.
Yeah, sorry about that. Name dropping hard.
In general, no, I highly recommend you to check out Wyrd and then check out Profane Wyrd. It is a great addition to Wyrd as we go through this. Enemies can be anything you like: goblins, soldiers, ghosts, or beasts. Flavor them however you like. They list 3 enemy types here: normal, boss, and great boss. There's enemy damage, hit dice, gold, and HP. Gold, just in context here, I assume is just what you get for killing the creature. So if you look at a normal enemy, 1d2 damage, 1d6 hit dice, 1d2 gold, and HP is anywhere between 4 and 10. Pretty straightforward. It's about a person, you know, which makes sense in the context of the things that you're fighting. A boss is 1d3 damage, 1d3 hit dice. It's interesting, and I do like the math, how you're trying to roll under, so your hit die actually gets smaller as you go.
I believe, yeah. Right.
Because you're trying to roll a smaller number. So a great boss hit die 1d2. I mean, if you're rolling d6 minus power plus armor, you just have, the worst they can do is a 2, realistically. So they're going to put out a lot of damage unless you're rolling like really low on your d6 and, you know, have a good power score and not a whole lot of armor.
And I think that's where the like idea of someone who's tanking the blows while you have that glass cannon caster or the sneaky Shiv rogue. And yes, a tie does lose.
Yeah. That really, I mean, I can imagine people being like, fuck this breastplate, and just being like, huh, like I can't hit this guy with my current score, literally, because, you know, my armor is it's like a +3 or +4 or whatever. So like, unless you're rolling, you know, if you have 2 power, you know, and you know, you roll like a d6, so you get to a 4 +3 armor, you're rolling like a 7. It's impossible to hit the great boss, you know? So I can just picture people just like being like, all right, I just slice the breastplate off, clanks on the ground, I'm now unarmored, and I can finally try to hit this guy because I'm moving a little quicker. It seems like a cool scene that could happen.
And that also allows for, you know, your like little own table rules to start coming into play. Like perhaps maybe your breastplate wearing, shield wielding character might have like a taunt effect or something like that.
Yeah. which again, it's enough of a system to play, but you can stack on so much to this because it's so broad.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy it. Boss we talked about, and then Great Boss is the final one. It's 1d6 damage. I just said 1d2 hit dice, 1d6 gold, and 20 to 30 hit points, with the boss being 12 to 18. I mean, it's clean is one thing that I really like about it. Like, it's clean and it's minimal and it's small. Like, I like, again, the whole thing is a d6 system, and it's a d6 and less. You know, not like d6 and like 2d6 and 3d6. It's literally like a lot of it revolves around d6, d3, d2, not d6, 2d6, 3d6. Like a couple small instances with damage and stuff, you'll get a little bit different, but for the most part, it's d6 and less, which is really fun.
And if I recall, the like general premise was that you could use a 10-room dungeon and like easily stock it.
Like super easily, you know. And you can go to like online and find like a 10-room dungeon generator and like boom and just play this game. You know,
was it Whatabout or whatever?
Yeah. Oh yeah, easily. And they even can stack it if you want, or even Donjon. You can go on and click, and it'll even stock monsters and treasure and stuff for you. So super easy to run with that. Treasure. What would a dungeon be without treasure? Each time you kill an enemy, roll for gold, spend 10 gold to increase a skill by 1. So this puts a fun mechanic in the game where gold is experience, which is why you do what you're doing. You kill stuff because you get XP for it, basically. What's that? You buy skills, which is a very specific type of game when you make gold XP. Which very much makes sense in the context of what this game is.
Very much encourages the delves, dives, taking the quests, and it's I don't know if it was intentional or not, but it does harken very much to the basic expert style of progression.
Yep. And I don't see, unless I missed it, a cap to that skills.
I don't believe there is, but once again, don't quote me on that.
But I mean, so if you're rolling a d6 and eventually you get like, you know, like 7 power, you know, it's a lot easier to hit that boss when you start at a base. Yeah, you start like a base like -1. You roll a 1 on the dice and you're at like -8, you know, and then you can rock that 3 armor, like you said, and hit fucking everything. So, I mean, the odds of you living that long aren't great. Let's be honest.
That's what retainers are for.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And the fact that your vitality is linked to your vigor, right? So in the beginning, we talked about, where is that? Here it is. Vitality is equal to 1d6 plus vigor. I assume that means if you increase vigor, you increase vitality.
Yep.
So the more points you get in that, the more, you know, you can take. And I like point games. One of the things I like about 3 and 4 stat systems is that and when you have like a d6 dice instead of like d20s, everything is more meaningful. Like, the choice that you have to do where you're like, fuck, do I put 1 more in power so I can hit more and my die will be lower, or do I put 1 more in vitality so I can get more health? Like, every time you get to that 10 gold, it's gonna be, at least for me, it would be a struggle to decide, where am I putting this? What's the next thing I really need? More health or more damage? More health or more damage?
Or you could also think about it as, do you want to increase your power that allows you to carry more?
Very true. Yep. I mean, so that's another reason to go power. You're like, okay, well, I do more damage. I can carry more stuff too. So,
so that means power is also an option for the mage archetype.
Well, yeah, because you need to carry more objects, even if you're not hitting with physical power. You're still carrying stuff with you. So,
right, because the spells would take the slots that are provided by the encumbrance, if I recall.
Right. Yeah. So, which is an interesting thing, though, that your power gives you more spells. It's one of those ones where it's like, okay, it's a game. That's how it works. No, mind is spell slots. I'm sorry. You can equip spells with slots up to 1d3 plus mind. Yeah. So mind really goes for the spell one. But you're right, though, with the encumbrance is the ability to like carry more stuff. So that's kind of one that's like a double. I'm
gonna jot that note down because I feel like, you know, maybe it should be spread across. You got to carry all those components with you.
All components, yeah, it's true. But you gotta have the mind space. You know what I mean?
That's true.
So disdain and renown. Wyrd. The name of the game, also a rule. Each time you increase a skill, roll 1d6. If you roll a 1 or a 2, you have increased your renown as a heroic adventurer in the kingdom surrounding you. More local towns will call upon you for your aid to clear out monster nests and return the lost treasure to the magistrates. Implied setting. In this rule, we get implied setting. We get, okay, local towns, kingdoms, monsters, magistrates, clearing out monster nests, all within this rule. You have built the whole world.
Correct.
You know, at least enough that you need to do it. And I love that realistically, I think the amount of setting in the entire thing is maybe 4 or 5 lines, but you 1000% know exactly what the game is saying.
Yeah, and as we will see with Wyrd rather, you can just shift some nouns around, and now you have a crew of people on Mars killing vampires.
Yeah. So that's 1 to 2, you get renown. So if you roll a 5 to 6, your actions have caught the eye of the locals, and they don't appear to appreciate them. You become an outlier, and the opinion of you is one of disdain. Local bandits and other unsavory groups begin to take notice and offer you work, which is interesting. It's like bad for the locals, but you could also be bandits, which is cool. And I still like that it's all lower roll is better. So I like the consistency throughout the system. And on a 3 to 4, nothing happens. No one notices you. You're nothing. Sorry.
It happens.
Yeah. It's also interesting that is one thing I have a question. So is it 10 gold as a party, everyone gets a skill, or is it 10 gold per skill?
I believe it is 10 gold per skill, like per individual.
So you have to get, so for everyone to get 1 more point, you got to get 30 gold.
At a full group, yes.
Interesting. So keep track of how much renown and disdain you have, and tailor your adventures based on which is the higher. When one reaches rank 5, you are famous or infamous. You may choose to retire your career or follow the path of that one attribute exclusively for the rest of your days. I like games that have an end.
Mm-hmm.
I do, especially games like this. Like one of the games we played on stream before is Victory Basic from Source of Victory, and there's only 9 levels. Once you reach 9th level, it literally is, if you're like a cleric, you build a temple outside of the dungeon or whatever, and other clerics can come to you for like rest and teaching and stuff like that, but you're done. Your adventure is over. You're old, you took an arrow to the knee, you're done. So I really enjoy that because no one ever gets to 20th fucking level. Come on. Like
hey now.
I think the highest, we ran a campaign for 2.5 years. We got to, I think, level 17. And I had plans to 20, but then people moved and stuff. But I mean,
yeah, life tends to get in the way beforehand. And on the bell curve, gets in the way. Yeah,
I
think like for D&D, the average levels for 5th edition are like 11 through, or like 10 through 15 at max. Or
yeah, at like best. I think most, if I remember correctly, I think it's 10 and 11. I think is when most parties end.
Right,
which is one of the reasons why D&D puts out like 1 to 10 books a lot, and then like 10 plus books a lot, or like max 1 to 15. You know, because they know people aren't. I mean, like you just said, a lot of times life gets in the way. It's hard.
Yeah, and it doesn't have like the incentivization of 3.5 or Pathfinder, where you would have to grind out those tons of experience, like through what is it, Kingsmaker or other adventure paths that do compensate for that.
Yep.
So anyway,
so
that's tangential.
I love that rank 5, you're famous, you're infamous, you retire, you're done. That's exactly what have happened. And now you're just you're a legend in the areas, and when you start a new player, they're aware of the legend of your previous character. I really enjoy that,
and that builds onto the world. And so at that rank you can choose to perhaps Lou Ferrigno Hulk walk away dramatic music, credits roll, or you can continue being a Robin Hood, or the knight that goes out valiantly clearing monster nests and protecting the town. It is elegantly simple.
It is. That's the whole game, is elegantly simple. I really enjoy it. This is a character sheet. It says Wyrd at the top. You got 5 spots for renown, 5 for disdain, your name, your vitality, your encumbrance, big boxes to put your vigor, mind, and power. You got 2 lines to write your weapons, your armor, 2 lines each to write your weapons, your armor, your spelled. List your gold, a line for your notes, and that's it. And that's all you fucking need, realistically. I mean, if you actually get a character up to like 5th or whatever, just turn the sheet over and start writing on the back. And that's about as much as you need. And that's Wyrd. That's the whole thing. That's the whole system. That is the framework. That is the pre-framework that we will see a little bit later from Kirby and Disaster Tourism. And again, there's already stuff out there. Kirby talked about hired, whacked, a bunch of hacks already coming out for it. The Profane Word, which we've talked about a bunch of times, Copperscade Games, expansions and things you can add on to it. This is, again, a little bit different than a lot of the games we've talked about that do have SRDs, where like what jumps into my head right away is a game like Lumen, because Lumen's a whole game. And it's more like kind of reskinning it and adding stuff and doing stuff like that, as opposed to this game where I feel like you're not really going to reskin this or even really hack it. It's what can you add to it,
right?
Because it's so, you can't. There's not a whole lot to change because it's about as simple as it can get,
But with that simplicity, allows you it gives you more canvas space. Like, all right, so let's say I want a system with cars. I want this to be a drag racing game. This is now the Fast and Weird. I like that, actually. I like that way more than I should.
Write it down. Don't forget about it.
Sort of renown your family.
Yeah. Play testing feedback, thanks to Tom Owen. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, and also... there's some other wonderful people who did help play test that as well.
Gabe Rivera, Daniela Mirage, and Revenant Rogue. Open up the front of this one. This is Wyrd we're about to get to. Playtesting feedback thanks to Revenant Rogue, Jeremiah Bordeaux, Tom Owen, and Gabe Rivera. So there's a reason that a lot of Wyrd stuff's coming out that's Tom Owen and Gabe Rivera. They helped make the game happen.
We were almost involved some way. I can't put my finger on it.
Yeah, who knows? But that's Wyrd. And then let's get into the first hack, which is also Disaster Tourism, who hacked his own game, or who hacked their own game. This is Wyrd, and we've talked about this, and I love it, and I'm obsessed with it. Four letters, mostly starting with W. We got Wyrd. We got Wired, we got Whacked, which is the Mafia one. I did see Hired, the mercenary one, which adjacent, but listen, I like the W's. And we'll see what's next with some of these hacks. I'm really excited for it. I really can't wait for the Wyrd jam where it's hacks and stuff.
I hope to see a Wild where it's like a hex crawl build.
Yeah,
that'd be pretty
Wild. When I hear Wild, I think like jungle too.
Ooh, all right.
I think jungle in the wild, or it's savannah, even a little bit of both, That's cool. I like that.
Just giving out free ideas here for the jam.
Hey, listen, the jam's coming up. If you want to do Wild, just Ryan of the Weekly Scroll. You're welcome for that.
Fast and Weird. Please make that somebody.
The Fast and the Weird.
Yeah,
Oh, the car. Yeah. You make it. The jam's coming up. Listen, I got to do something at some point, so maybe I'll make something. We'll see. All right, Wyrd. So this is basically a cyberpunk version of Wyrd, from Kirby, layout by their partner Kristen, art from Public Domain, edited by Ben L. For Disaster Tourism, we've already talked about all the cool people involved in that, including our very own Tom Owen here. The PDF is not in color.
I did not have anything to do with that, so I don't know why that is.
Is your PDF in color? Are all the PDFs not in color?
My PDF is black and white as well. So I'll poke Kirby on that one.
The booklet. Oh, the booklet's in color. Is it just the singles? I could go back to doing the 2-page spread. Why is just the singles black and white, Kirby? You're killing me, Smalls. I got to go back to a 2-page spread for the color. I do love the color. The pink, the magenta color is one of my favorite colors in the world. I don't know if you notice it from any of the things around here. I
very much feel that, purple and like the shades of purple, the cyan, and that like neon. That's what makes cyberpunk. I did get hit with a wonderful little like reality check, and someone was describing like, you find cyberpunk setting, fascinating and like attractive to the eye because you don't recognize the advertisements. If they were all for Minions, like the what is it, Pixar or what have you, like they would suddenly be like, oh, this is horrible. This is late stage capitalism at its finest.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like if you did not know anything about advertisements but went to like Times Square and just looked around, cyberpunk's a lot closer than you think.
Oh yeah, I mean, unquestionably, it's really interesting. I saw someone on Twitter talking about Cyberpunk Edge Runners, the new show on Netflix, which I fucking love, by the way. What was interesting was talking about Cyberpunk now in 2022 versus talking about Cyberpunk in 1982 is very different because our technology is a lot fucking closer. And now you can see that the future that we're looking at can't be the future we have now. It's kind of like looking back on old movies that talk about, the future in 2020, and it's like, that's not the tech we have. You know what I mean?
100%. I'm going to send you a image really quickly. You'll get a kick out of this. This was from one of the Cyberpunk 2020 Chromebooks. And there you go.
Oh gosh. The phone.
Yeah, cell phone upgrades, voicemail for €20 a month, a fax interface, a 2-inch by 2-inch screen.
That's what I'm saying. The technology of things that cyberpunk gets to and what people recognize as cyberpunk, our technology is different than that now. It's so far past and different that it's really interesting to see cyberpunk. You almost have to look at it as like an alternate timeline at this point, not a future, because we're in the future, basically where cyberpunk is. So it's interesting to think about, and it's also interesting to think of if people were to write cyberpunk now, what will people think tech is in 50 years versus what they thought tech was 50 years ago?
I dare say that's where you would see a shift more towards like solar punk, like post collapse.
Oh yeah, well, because I mean, it's much more inevitable than it was in 1980. You know what I mean? So it's interesting that cyberpunk in the future just means post-apocalyptic. Because that's the future, people. So Wyrd, what we were just talking about, and now I have the color version up. So let me do a little zoom on this, and we'll get to a single page here. This is the page.
Layout so much.
Yeah, it's gorgeous, and the colors, killing the game here. So that original page we had to talk about at the beginning, Wyrd is an ultralight cyberpunk tabletop role-playing game for 1 to 3 players. It can be played with or without a game master. A lot of the wording is very similar with just some tweaks, you know, and that's what's great. This is a perfect example of hacking the system. Straight code has done permanent damage to the global network, and net running carries its risk more than ever now. A little risk has never stopped you before. Roll 1d3 for each attribute. So instead of what we have in Wyrd, which is vigor, mind, and power, feels very, you know, sword and sorcery. You got tough, wire, and skill, which is an interesting 3 choices. Tough is your well-being and resistance. Wire is your cyberware capability and your net running skill, and skill is your prowess and strength. The one knock I think I have on this game is using skill as the name of an attribute, because it's so intrinsically linked to
a little bit.
Yeah. It's so linked to tabletop vernacular that when you think skill, you think of a skill.
Right. Like prowess would be like a possibly better option, where it's like your skill and strength.
Right. Yeah. Completely agree. Vitality and encumbrance are all the same. Your vitality is equal to 1d6 plus tough, which is same as it was with Wyrd with power. Encumbrance is up to 2d3 plus skill, which is because it was vigor. I'm sorry. The vigor in Wyrd for vitality and skill for power. Yeah. So still the same, just different words. And chip slots. You can equip hacks with up to 2d3 plus wire. So chip slots are now your magic. It's your hacks. It's your things like that. And you can spend credits to raise each attribute by 1. So instead of XP you get from, or gold you get from killing monsters, it's credits you get from doing things. Going straight into here, I love this page. Love the font choice. Love this bluish purple and cyan or the and magenta background. I mean, if you could see my computer, it's literally just blinky cyan and magenta, vaporwave, and the whole cyberpunk aesthetic like really just speaks to me. So really enjoy it. Talking about gear here. Choose whatever gear type you like. Roll damage based on the gear you have equipped if you're using it to attack. If you roll maximum damage on the die, you may roll once more with the next size dice. Equipped gear fills encumbrance slots. I think it's really clear that when Kirby wrote Wyrd and then wrote Wired, there's a trajectory a little bit, where some of the things that we questioned in Wyrd have already been clarified in Wired, which came after, which gives you kind of a sense of where Wyrd is going to go when they change it to a framework. Because I think one of the things we talked about with the damage die was, can you only do it once? And in this, it specifically says, if you roll maximum damage on the die, you may roll once more. So there's already clarifications, which is just...
it adds specificity over generality.
Yeah, which is super helpful in this. And it's interesting that you get that a lot sooner than in Wyrd, which didn't happen until maybe the next page when you got to combat. Even when you're talking about in the weapon section, which was interesting. So gear example, an example is listed here at the top of here instead of when it was on Wyrd.
It's on the weapons page.
Is it? Maybe it all blurred together for me. Oh, you're completely right. If you roll maximum damage on the die, you may roll once more with the next size dice. It actually even says once more. Did we really just not read that it said once more?
I like exploding dice, so I probably just nixed the word once more.
Yeah. So small, medium, large, and overweight, which is an interesting choice to use. Gear size examples, damage, and slots for each one. Small are things like knife and knuckle dusters. 1d2 damage, 1 slot. Medium is pistol and a fire katana, which is a really interesting choice. 1d3 and 2 slots.
It's more exciting than a regular katana, and Absolutely. It's the grimdark future.
I want a fire katana for sure. It's basically a lightsaber, but cooler is what it amounts to. Large is an assault rifle or a pulse hammer, which is 1d6 or 3 slots, and then overweight rocket launcher, and Gatling gun. 3D, 3 and 5 slots.
One of the things that you can see us like nitpicking and weird that is different in Wyrd though is those are listed as examples.
Yep. I really genuinely think it was just a missed word in the layout, because I think there's plenty of space for it and everything in the in the Wyrd one. So, but I do like you just said, that they're listed as examples, because you obviously have more than just a knife and knuckle dusters, which is necessary. Hacks, which is the new magic. Choose a hack based on the types below. The hack specifics are up to you, but the greater the ability to hack, the more chip slots it requires. Doubling the slot cost for a hack increases its effect by that much. For example, reformat is a 2 chip slot cost, heals target for 2d2 damage instead of 1d2. I love that literally it's just a couple of words that are different, but 90% of the language is even the same, but it's a whole different game. I love how easily it is to switch magic to hacking, and it works so well.
The one thing that I noticed with that though, with the hack being Trojan, that I suppose means Rome is canonically existent in any Wyrd game or Wyrd game.
It has to be. I mean, it's Earth. It is future Earth, so Rome must in fact exist.
It's just, reading, I'm going, that means that.
Well, Brutus as well. I mean, So the 5 types of hacks are reformat, which is basically it's repairing and healing a target for the effect. And I like that they listed effect / damage here instead of just damage.
Right.
Because in the last one we said, well, heal, it just says damage listed. But putting both in clarifies it doesn't always just have to be, damage. 1 slot, utility. So it's reformat, utility, bypass, Trojan, and Brutus. Utility is target, enhance, read motive, 1d2 for the effect or damage, and 1 slot. Bypass is crack a passcode, gain access, 1d3 and 2 slots. Trojan is install malware, install a backdoor, 2d3 for 3 slots, and Brutus is brute force entry, major shutdown, 3d3 and 4 slots. I like it. I mean, it's exactly all the things that I think about when I would create computer hacking, is all of these various instances.
Just toss on like Daft Punk's Technologic in the background when you're I would say that'd be a great way to probably pull, like, if you wanted to create your own hacks even. It sounds silly, but
It's good.
You never know.
Yeah. Hey, listen, if you're playing Wyrd too, one of the people I really like for music, since you brought it up, is Cara Casey or Whitebat on Spotify. Twitch safe and everything if you're streaming it, but they have a ton of really great cyberpunk, just music, no lyrics and stuff like that. Check them out.
Oh yeah, I think I saw their music listed on a cyberpunk subreddit that I was browsing.
Oh, I wouldn't be
play
surprised at all.
a
It's
lot
great.
of cyberpunk.
You should definitely check it out. It's great. I'll just, like, my ADHD brain loves EDM for like the constant bass beat with a bunch of other stuff going on so I can focus. I have a whole Whitebat ADHD playlist just to have like cyberpunk or industrial or something like blasting. It's really great. Check them out. Firewalls is the next thing, which is basically armor, which is interesting in the way that it's done. It's interesting. Firewall protects you from enemy hacks. The stronger the firewall, the harder it is to hack. Firewall uses chip slots, add mod to hacking rolls. So it's more than just armor in this one. There's firewalls on top of armor because you have to protect against hacking, which is different in that you don't have armor against magic in Wyrd, but it would make sense to have protection against hacking in a cyberpunk game. So this is one of the big differences I think that's been added in.
Yeah, and you definitely want to have that because the last thing you want is someone jacking your cyberware.
Yeah, you got to have that McAfee, you know?
Oh, totally.
McAfee, however you say it. Firewall protects you. Oh, I already read that. So firewall. So you have mod, protection, slots, and bonus. So it's the
McAfee
same
would
as
be
armor.
the free one that comes with the cyberware.
Yeah, there you go. And trust me, there's no hacks involved in that one. It works perfectly, guys. So it's exactly the same thing that armor works, but again, it's for hacks specifically. So you got no firewall, which means no protection, no modifier. It's 1+2 slots. And then the bonus is a hack effect. So if you have no firewall, you get a hack effect. But what does the 1+2 slots mean?
I want to say that is like the role. I could be wrong though. This one I play tested once, to be entirely honest.
Yeah, we'll have to talk to Kirby because in the armor there's no pluses. I don't really see where the 2+2 comes into effect and the 1+2 comes into effect. Huh. We'll get to it. So there's non-discount CSTL GRD, Castle Guard, and Guarded Knight. I assume the bottom one is GRD and KNT.
I totally read something different for the last half of that.
Oh, what did you write? What did you say?
Let's keep moving. If you'd like to buy a vowel, you could figure it out.
I got it. I put it together. Yeah.
Oops, sorry about that.
No, that's probably the one too. So discount is 1 mod, 1 protect, 2+2 slots, and you get a small gear effect. Castle Guard is 2 mod, 2 protection, and 3 slots, and we'll call it Guarded Knight. And it's 3 mod, 3 protection, and 4 slots. So again, basically just how armor works, but we got to get some clarification on what the 1+2 and 2+2 on the slots is.
I think it is specified in the combat section.
We'll have to, it's got to be. I mean, yeah. So we'll see.
Armor is very much the same as Wyrd. As I tilt my head.
This is one of those things that I will say that seeing it with no explanation and then getting the explanation later, it is nice to have the explanation when you first see the thing. So I think having one more line of what the +2 here would be nice.
Or a example of how things would shake down underneath.
Yeah. And there's room on the page, I think. I don't think they're asking for space here. So I think that'd be cool. And like you said, armor works exactly the same. It's the same. The options are none, leather shirt, bomber jacket, riot gear, and a wrist shield instead of a small shield. The bonuses for none are you get +1 reformed effect on self. And on the leather shirt is +1 to small gear damage, and the rest of it, the numbers are all exactly the same as they are in Wyrd. It's no real reason to dig through that.
That ever got tweaked, I would say bomber jacket would need to be reworded as just a leather jacket. It's almost the same as wearing a leather shirt. You just have longer sleeves.
True.
Just some wording thoughts. That could be like Kevlar.
Kevlar. Yeah.
I think you'd have to get permission to use that.
Oh, yeah. Kevlar is a brand name, isn't it?
Yeah, like Gore-Tex or what have you.
You could just have armored,
armor weave or something like that.
Yeah, you could totally have something like that and it'd be fine. So we got offline and online here. So offline, enemies only damage you if they win a combat roll. If you tie the roll, the enemy wins. So this is physical damage versus basically hacking damage, is what the offline and online is. And I like that there's red on the offline and green on the online. It's
nice and
the great little, great little tag for that. So keeping with the offline, attacking with a weapon. Roll d6 minus skill plus armor against enemy hit die. The lower wins the attack. Exactly the same. If you're at 0 vitality, your mainframe loses power and you drop unconscious. A mysterious entity will collect you and you'll be rebooted in a safe house. If you go below, you're dead. It's all exactly the same on the other one. You just use words like rebooted instead of,
you get de-rezzed and rezzed.
Right. What's different here is the online. Which is why we have firewalls and stuff like that. So so you get net running. So you roll d6 minus wire plus firewall against the network's hack die. The lower roll wins the hack, and the outcome can be resolved. Hacking a hostile target, roll d6 minus wire plus firewall against enemy firewall. If you roll lower than the enemy, your hack goes off immediately. If you lose the roll, your hack activates immediately on the next turn, but the target gets a free hack/attack this round, roll effect or damage. I'm still not seeing the explanation for that plus on the other one.
Yeah, I don't know.
We'll have to talk. Because it's specific to the slots specifically. So I'm curious why it's 1 + 2 instead of just 3 and 2 + 2 instead of like 4. We'll have to see. We'll have to check. Enemies work very similar. Is it damage dice different in this one by a decent amount? No, it's 3d2, 3d3, and 5d3. 1d6. Okay. No, it's exactly the same.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
5d3 seems a little bit higher, but...
Oh, you know what's interesting too?
I noticed that there's no clarification on ties for net running either.
So in the PDF of Wyrd, the enemy HP is 4 to 10, 12 to 18, and 20 to 30 plus. But in my print copy, instead of HP, they list vitality and have rolls for them.
Yeah, that is correct.
It's interesting that must just be an updated PDF. Interesting. So I wonder if there's a clarification in here. There's not. It still says 1 + 2. So yeah, let me get rid of these weird singles. All right, so enemies is exactly the same. Don't need to go over it again. Enemies, this is what's different. Enemies can occasionally have hacks installed. If so, they may return a hack instead of attempting an attack with a weapon. In this case, roll the enemy XD, which is not their HD, it's basically their hackingness. So there's basic, rough, and boss. So basic, their XD is 1d6, and their hacks are 1 utility. Rough, there's 1d3 XD, and they got 1 reformat, 1 utility, 1 bypass, and 1 Trojan. And a boss is 1d2 XD, and they get 1 reformat, 2 utility, or 2 bypass, 1 Trojan, and 1 Brutus. And then there's a whole network too. So there's a difficulty level for the network. Basic network is 1d6, a rough network is 1d3, and a challenging network is 1d2. Credits. What would this city be without credits? Each time you kill an enemy, roll for credits. Spend 1,000 credits to an increase in attribute by 1. Which, if you look at the credits here versus the gold in the previous one, basically it's just times 100.
Yeah, it feels more satisfying and appropriate.
Yeah, well, yeah, because I mean, 1,000 credits feels very cyberpunk because you're like, fuck, we get 1,000 credits versus like 10 gold.
I got 30 credits here. I can upgrade my wire
or get a Starbucks or whatever it is in the future, you know. But I love this picture at the bottom, and I love the effect that was put on it. The hacking picture with this kind of like blue red. It looks a little bit like I need some 3D glasses for it. It's a really, really great shot at the bottom of this page.
I do think that could really benefit from having a combat example section there.
Yeah,
because it does seem a little bit overwhelming with, all right, so there's firewalls, there's a network going on at the same time, so there's net space, meet space, what are you doing?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I think it's hard with like the whole concept of ultralight gaming is you make it as concise and tiny as you possibly can, you know, and as soon as you start giving examples and stuff like that, I think the thing doubles. So in size, so it's a really interesting balance.
That is the only area I would say it would be beneficial, like just to show like
I think an example, even within the gears and stuff like that, more examples, or even like you said, even just like one full page that's like an example of play that hits all of the little things in like one strip.
And it can be done in a very stylistic way, like having like DOS terminal, like
yeah.
little commands.
And I think
there.
even within the layout, I think there's room, because if you look at the first page here, there's like half an open page here. If you look at the next page here, you know, even on the inside cover, you know, I know this is where credits and stuff go, but there's some space here. Even within this, there's a lot of space on this page. So I do think there's room for it. And even this one, for how small it is, there's really a ton of page space left in here. You could even increase that font size pretty significantly and not lose any space on that page.
Just shift everything up ever so slightly. You could keep the art. You could have a small section on how to like successfully run combat, just in case it is a little bit confusing. And
even the last page, it's really only that amounts to about half the page if you really look at it. So there's plenty of space even within this. Like you said, I mean, pamphlet turned zine.
In a good way.
I love the zine format. I was gonna say, like, it's fantastic. I really love the way that it came out this way. Last page is previously this was the Renown and Disdain. I think now it's Street Cred and Narc. So each time you increase an attribute, roll 1d6, and it's exactly the same. So if you roll a 1d2, your net running has been safe and your cyberware stays intact. Also, the actions you have taken have earned you some street cred. Freedom fighters, local gangs, and other groups might hire you to help them hack banks, steal from the core, and take out or debilitate local police forces or other similar missions. I like that the difference in this is that your renown made all the people like you, right? And in this one, your street cred makes you like more anti, establishment and stuff like that. And you get,
yeah, that's the theme of cyberpunk.
That is cyberpunk. Yeah. Those are the people you're trying to impress and help.
Unless you do want to be working for the corpos, and in which case you're covered there.
It's different too, I think, because whether you're Renown or Disdain and Wyrd, it's like, okay, I'm a good guy or I'm a bandit. I think there's like you could really go either way. In this, it's like you're a street cred or a fucking bootlicker. Which one do you really want to be? You know what I mean? I think there's a much
like if you become glitched, like that could, or you could perhaps even see, like depending on what your perspective is and how you want to play, maybe running the corporation is your goal.
You're a fucking bootlicker.
I mean, I may have just been reading the Cyberpunk 2020 guide to corporate stuff, so maybe that's why that's on my mind. I was like,
there you go. Gotcha.
Yeah, I do love the idea. So if you
roll of what, being in corpo?
No, just how it is so open to interpretation. And
yeah.
Like, obviously you don't want to be in there. Don't.
No. Corpo. Yeah. All right, we're good. We're on the same page. If you do roll a 5 or 6, though,
unless you want to sabotage it. Find the way out.
There you go, from the inside. Like you can get as long as you don't hit 5, just get to 4 and then go the other direction. If you roll a 5 or 6, net running has corrupted some parts of your cyberware. This causes you to be more easily angered, violent, and hostile towards everyone. You're seen in the same light as the cops, and you're deemed a narc. The Corps and police take notice and offer you work to eliminate gangs, hack local organizations, or kill citizens that are fighting the status quo. Keep track of both. Once you reach rank 5, you are a hero or glitched. You may choose to retire or follow the path of that one attribute exclusively until you die. And then we get to the character sheet, which is literally exactly the same, just with 5 words change. Street cred, narc, tough, skill, wire. In the font, the little pixelated font, and that's it. That is the game. That is Disaster Tourism. Doesn't have the Exalted Funeral like the print book does, right there on the back. But that is Wyrd and Wird. Great frameworks and games within themselves. Love both. I think the whole... God, this is so open to hacking. You know, like as in a game, not as in like, you know, hack the system as a gamer, as opposed to a cyberpunker, or a netrunner, a cyberpunker, fucking boomer. But those cyberpunkers,
an edge runner, a booster.
Yeah.
You need to brush up on your lingo, Chew.
Yay, I'm getting there. Listen, I watched Edge Runners. I at least heard them say choom a lot. Don't know where it came from. But that's Wyrd and Wird. Can't wait for the jam. Can't wait for Guild Game and all the things that have come from this.
Oh yeah.
The print version of Profane Word to come out. Again, your projects to come out. Divine and Arcane Word, correct?
Divine and Arcane Wyrd, which will be a
weird. I don't like to say word. Yeah.
It's going to be probably, I think, pushing the max of what you can saddle stitch. So it'll be 64 pages with the cover.
Being close to perfect binding.
Yeah, there's a lot to kind of delve into, especially taking Thrith's like incantation, not directly, but like very inspired by that, to have like words to roll on, and going a little bit more in depth on that to have like adjectives and nouns.
You're taking 6. You're timesing this by 10.
Yeah, just for magic.
Just for magic. That shows you how much you can add to this. But yeah, again, I love these. Kirby is an awesome person. All of their stuff is fantastic. Evergreen Wilds, Bucket Bash, which is now Sweet Tooth, I believe is a new name for it. Slasher, Paranormal, Rivals. I think Rivals was probably the first. No, I think I bought Rivals and Paranormal at the same time. And that was my first intro into Disaster Tourism. And then here we are.
My intro, I suppose, would have been the big project he talked about that they talked about that shifted to working on smaller games.
Yeah. And listen, whatever it was, I think it was a good shit. I think a year, this isn't even all of them. There's like 3 more that I don't have that are like packed away over there. I think, well, 2 more, Paranormal and Rivals. Don't have the Dark here. Don't have This House is Haunted here. 1 year. This is insane. I've been working on the same shit for like 5 years.
Sometime soon too.
That's what he said. I think that's what they said. Like 2 weeks, I think was about max, because they have the candles, they have the cassettes that just came in. They got everything sitting there waiting. LFOSR versions. You know, I love me some LFOSR. So very excited for the Dark. Can't wait for that. We're gonna get 2 amazing Wretched Alone games. Very close. We're gonna have the Dark. We're gonna have fungible, all done up, LFOSR style. So excited for that. There's a rumor floating around out there that might hear a little bit more from Leo a little bit too at some point here on the show. We'll see. It's an interesting into the year, I will say, over the next 2 months. So got a lot of fun stuff going on.
Perhaps,
little preview.
Would this rumor perhaps make me weep?
Would seeing Leo make you weep?
Oh no, I thought you were saying there was another project that was.
No, I was saying we might get a chance to talk with Leo here on the show. Yeah, we'll see. But a lot of really, really great people coming up. Do I dare give little hints and previews for anyone still listening? Coming up soon on the show, we're gonna have maybe something from Black Oath Entertainment.
Oh.
We're gonna have a little bit of Colin Lasore. Might have a little bit of LFOSR. The next, you know, till the end of the year, it's gonna be an interesting time here on the show. Also, we need to do a giveaway.
Yes, and I stupidly entered into the giveaway, so re-roll if it lands on me.
Someone else will get it. So if you are here and you have not entered the giveaway, do exclamation point giveaway in the next 10 seconds. I will close it and I will pick 3 winners, and then I will have you contact me, and then I will get your address and mail you the books. If you don't want me to have your personal address, I don't know any other way to get it to you. So if you win, just say no thanks.
Probably ask Kirby. They would more than happily send it, I'd assume. I don't know. Maybe.
They've already sent them to me.
Oh, I got
so
you. Yeah.
But trust me, I won't stalk you because I don't care enough. But yeah. So if you haven't entered now, that stinks. So I'm gonna close these entries. And pick 3 winners. Andy gets one. That's Evil Andy. Thriftomancer gets one. And Drow gets one.
Perfect.
So you didn't win anyway. So I will reach out to all of those. Andy, I don't have to go far for. Thriftomancer, do me a solid. Just shoot me a message on Discord. Our Discord is right there. I am Ryan, or if you're in like Exalted, like literally a million people's Discords, I'm in those Discords as Ryan TWS, so just find me there, or shoot me a message there, or shoot me a message on Twitch, or however you like to do it. I'll get in touch with you and get your address, and I'll reach out to Drow as well, regular here in our chat, and get their address as well so I can ship out those. So thank you everyone for being here. This is a little bit longer than we've been doing lately. We're well over 3 hours between the interview and the chat with Wyrd and Wird. At some point I will catch up on our Instagram, which is about 6 weeks behind. So that's fun. But that's it. So where can people find your stuff, Tom?
I am if you check out the Dice Maven itch, it is just a single, very strange or business card RPG, but I do plan on sort of just dumping everything onto there soon. And right now, the best place to find like updates would be probably through fungible.dicemaven.com, and just keeping track of the updates, even on the Kickstarter, because that's right like where my head is for most of that. And I'm also working on redesigning the site and all that. So but for socials, at Dice Maven on Twitter, Insta, there's a good old Facebook page that sees a post once in a year, maybe.
Gotcha. So, but we got a lot of stuff coming out soon. So we'll be able to see more and more of your stuff. I'm very excited for that. Very excited for some other things.
Thank you so much for having me on to chat about Wyrd and Wird.
Well, yeah. Well, not only that, I mean, I think we'll probably, in the future, after some other stuff coming up, you're going to need to come on as a guest and chat about that too. So we'll see how that goes. So there's just a little preview with Tom Owen, aka Dice Maven, here on the show. So if you've seen all of our socials, which are literally been scrolling above me the entire time, our weekly_scroll on Twitter, theadventurearchive.net is our website. We are the Adventure Archive on YouTube and on Instagram, which I promise I'll update soon. We are the.weekly.scroll. Check all that stuff out. And that is the end of our show. Again, Tom, thank you so much. Kirby, thank you so much for coming on. You guys all have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next week, Saturday. Again, little preview with probably Alex T of Black Oath Entertainment. So have a wonderful day, everybody.
Take care.